Chapter 6:11. Kid, how dare you steal from the shifters? Surrender yourself, Long Xingyun said viciously. His gaze was fixed on Long Ting's body. Mu Yu, let's fight them. This little bastard is pissing me off. Long Ting said angrily. Stay here and don't move. We are no match for them, Mu Yu said in a low voice. He thought that Gui Yeming was his biggest enemy on this trip out to sea. He did not expect that he would be set up by Long Xingyun after escaping from Gui Yeming's clutches. If we don't do anything, what should we do now? Long Ting asked. Xiao Shuai sniffed and said in surprise, Mu Yu, that mermaid's crown looks delicious. Mu Yu rolled his eyes. He was about to be defeated by Xiao Shuai. Xiao Shuai was still thinking about eating at a time like this. He simply said, Then you go and eat the mermaid's crown. The mermaid's crown had turned into a huge barrier and trapped him inside. He was just wondering how to get out. Okay. Cover me. There is a crack on the north side of the crown. I can eat it from there. Xiao Shuai's figure flashed and jumped out of Mu Yu's arms. This foodie's speed was so fast that it left people speechless. Mu Yu stepped forward without hesitation. The runes around him were already flashing. At the same time, a sky full of branches spread out with Mu Yu's feet as the center. In the blink of an eye, they covered Mu Yu and Mu Yu's figure disappeared into the trees. Child's play. Take him down. Long Xingyun shouted coldly. At the same time, his hands had turned into sharp dragon claws. They drew streaks of black light in the air and shattered the branches coming toward him. However, after the seemingly fragile branches were shattered, more branches grew out of the debris and swept toward Long Xingyun. The branches spread out in the sea like a green island in the sea. Long Xingyun frowned. He had underestimated these branches. Although they looked soft, they could not be destroyed. They even had a strange death aura. He was getting impatient. Long Yeli and Yiwen Mao were both at the body integration stage. They used their powerful spiritual power to form a vacuum around them, blocking the endless branches outside. Where did he go? Long Xingyun was furious that he had lost track of Mu Yu. Long Yeli split the tree branch with his palm and said, He didn't go anywhere. Just like Qiao Shui's ability to control water, he can fuse with these tree branches. Then let's destroy these branches, Long Xingyun said. Long Yeli and Yiwen Mao looked at each other. Then, a majestic spiritual power poured out from their bodies and blasted on the trees. Wherever their spiritual power went, the branches couldn't resist at all and were directly squeezed away. No matter how much the branches grew, they couldn't get close to them. Moreover, this distance was gradually shrinking. Soon, the branches were almost destroyed to the point where they couldn't stand. Mu Yu didn't expect to defeat these people with the branches. He just wanted to use the branches to buy time. Meanwhile, Xiao Shuai had already jumped to the crack of the crown. There was a fingernail-sized crack. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't notice it. However, Xiao Shuai said that this small opening leaked the smell of food inside. This crown was very hard everywhere. Only this small crack became its weakness, which was discovered by Xiao Shuai. A foodie's sense of smell was not to be underestimated. Sharp claws as thin as cicada's wings popped out from Xiao Shuai's little hands. They directly reached into the crack and slowly cut it open. Xiao Shuai's sharp claws were not usually used. Occasionally, he would use them to cut food. However, this didn't mean that his little claws weren't sharp. They were comparable to divine weapons. When he was at the second heaven, many demonic beasts who boasted of their thick skin were defeated by his claws. Let's go. Quick, bring me in. Xiao Shuai's sharp claws searched inside for a long time and said happily. Mu Yu pulled Xiao Shuai into the Mu Ling. Then, he followed the path that Xiao Shuai dug out with his claws and used his roots to drill into the crown with difficulty. Xiao Shuai, you can open the path faster, Mu Yu urged. The trees outside had already been destroyed by Long Xingyun and the others, and there were fewer and fewer trees left. Got it. My god claws are very powerful. Xiao Shuai's sharp claws reached out from the Mu Ling and nimbly cut through the giant crown with irresistible force. Soon, Xiao Shuai shouted excitedly, "Okay, spirit milk, wow." A rich, spiritual energy rushed towards them. Mu Yu felt as if they had entered a white lake. The spiritual energy around them was so thick that it had turned into liquid. Spirit milk? That's a rare treasure, Mu Yu said in surprise. Spirit milk was another form of spiritual energy. Under certain special circumstances, it would form into spirit milk. This kind of spirit milk would continuously absorb the spiritual energy around it to strengthen itself. This crown must have enveloped the spirit milk. However, because the spirit milk needed to continuously absorb spiritual energy, there was a small opening. Of course, it's a good treasure. Xiao Shuai was so happy that he was about to fly into the sky. What will happen if we eat all of this spirit milk? Mu Yu asked. Eat it? Then this crown will be useless. The power of the barrier comes from this spirit milk. Xiao Shuai existed in the form of a tree in the Mu Ling. He couldn't drink the spirit milk, so he was jumping up and down anxiously. I want to try it too, Longting said curiously. Mu Ling originally wanted to absorb these good things when it saw them, but Mu Yu stopped it. If he let Mu Ling take the spirit milk, Xiao Shuai would definitely fight Mu Ling to the death. He asked Mu Ling to make many straws to suck all the spirit milk and store it. Other than the crown, all the trees had been pushed away by Long Yeli and Iwan Mao. However, all the trees had disappeared except for Mu Yu. What's going on? Where is that kid? Did he escape? Long Xingyun asked angrily. Yuhan shook his head and said awkwardly but proudly, No, they can't escape. My crown is indestructible. It's a treasure that my ancestors found when they followed the Sea Goblin King to conquer the world. It contains powerful spiritual energy. The Sea Goblin King said that even if he wanted to break it directly, he would need to spend some effort. They can't break my crown and escape. Crack! Before Yuhan could finish his words, a shocking crack suddenly appeared on the huge crown. What? Yuhan's expression changed instantly. He was just praising the power of his crown in front of everyone. As a result, he was directly slapped in the face. Everyone was stunned. They all knew the value of this crown. It was a treasure passed down from generation to generation in the Mermaid clan. It had a very powerful ability and symbolized the dignity of the Mermaid King. However, such an indestructible treasure actually had a crack. Crack! Crack! A series of popping sounds rang out and cracks appeared on the crown like porcelain. Then, the cracks grew bigger and bigger. The crown, which was originally brimming with spiritual energy and shining with a pure white luster, suddenly decayed. It became like a rotten dead skin, becoming very ugly. No. My crown. Yuhan wanted to take back his crown in shock and anger, but it was already too late. With an explosion, the crown had already exploded into thousands of pieces, drifting with the wind on the surface of the sea. You want to trap me? Mu Yu took a step forward in the blink of an eye and appeared 1,000 feet away. At this moment, little Shuai was sitting on Mu Yu's shoulder. Mu Ling had turned into the shape of a coconut and even had a straw. Little Shuai was holding the coconut and sucking on it like an immortal. Needless to say, the spiritual milk in the crown had been snatched away by Mu Yu. No matter how indestructible something was, it would be vulnerable when attacked from its weak point. Unforgivable! Yuhan felt his heart bleeding. Not only had he lost the Mermaid clan's triangular divine halberd, but this time, even the crown that symbolized the glory of the Mermaid clan had been destroyed. This had greatly stimulated his nerves. Mu Yu did not have the slightest sympathy. The other party did not give him a chance to explain before killing him. He even listened to the slanderous words of a villain. Destroying the crown was a bit of interest. Yuhan had already rushed over with a murderous aura. The trident in his hand tore through the sky, setting off a huge wave. He wanted to tear Mu Yu into pieces. You really think you're lawless, don't you? Mu Yu stood motionless amidst the raging winds and waves. The shadow sword Qi in his hand was awe-inspiring, like a sea-stabilizing needle. The sword Qi surged majestically, instantly suppressing all the restless seawater. All the waves even tactfully lowered their heads in front of the sword Qi. The shadow sword stabbed out, transforming into a myriad of illusions, and the myriad of illusions returned to one sword. The sharp sword Qi streaked across the sky, bringing with it a myriad of rainbow light. It arrived in a flash and met Yuhan's trident head-on. Ding! With a soft sound, the shadow sword clashed with the trident in the air. It seemed to be light and without any strength. It only caused a ripple at the tip of the sword that gradually spread towards Yuhan's trident. Crash! Yuhan's eyes widened. The trident in his hand actually broke inch by inch and turned into pieces in the blink of an eye. However, Mu Yu's sword Qi did not weaken in the slightest as it headed straight for Yuhan's arm. Long Yeli appeared beside him and met the sword Qi of the shadow sword with his palm. He helped Yuhan resolve the sword Qi that was enough to kill Yuhan and guided the sword Qi to the surface of the sea. Boom! The sword Qi suddenly exploded on the surface of the sea, splashing up hundreds of feet high. The waves were actually transformed into shadow swords by the sword Qi and scattered in all directions. The surging sword Qi kept sputtering in the air. Yuhan and Long Xingyun both felt the terror of the sword Qi and immediately retreated hundreds of meters. The sword Qi slowly dissipated and the sea returned to calm. However, everyone's expression changed slightly because Mu Yu's figure had already disappeared from the vast sea. Where did he go? Long Xingyun cried out in shock and anger. He quickly scanned the surrounding sea surface, but there were only a few mermaids bobbing up and down in shock. Obviously, they were also frightened by Mu Yu's terrifying sword Qi. Long Yeli's expression was also very ugly. The two of them, who were in the combination realm, had teamed up with the Merfolk King to plot against Mu Yu, but they still let Mu Yu escape. This was a blatant mockery. Chapter 6:12. The sea was gloomy and Mu Yu was lost because he didn't know where the land was. If only Xiao Shui was here. Xiao Shui pouted. When Mu Yu escaped yesterday, he didn't look for Xiao Shui. He knew that Long Xingyun wouldn't do anything to her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to separate them. He should be worried about himself. Cut the crap. Let's go catch the Ink Devil Gorilla. Mu Yu said. The Ink Devil Gorilla's ink could be used to track scent. Mu Yu planned to let Xiao Shui catch one so that he could use Boss Lu's scent to find the island. The wood spirit transformed into a small boat. At this moment they were drifting with the waves in the sea. This small boat was not simple. There was a tall Bodhi tree in the middle. The Bodhi tree was lush with leaves. Mu Yu was lying under the Bodhi tree, enjoying the sea breeze. He was very relaxed. The Ink Devil Gorilla isn't an ordinary beast. It's hard to find. Xiao Shui's big tail was soaked in the sea and swinging back and forth. According to Xiao Shui, it was fishing with its tail. Little mouse, you've been fishing for a few hours. Is it reliable or not? The dragon vine circled around the Bodhi tree and yawned. Why don't you do it? Xiao Shui didn't like this task, but it was knowledgeable and knew a lot of things that others didn't know. For example, it could change the shape of spirit energy and turn it into the scent of the Ink Devil Gorilla. Once the Ink Devil Gorilla smelled this scent, it would rush over. What Xiao Shui was worried about was if the Ink Devil Gorilla really fell in love with it and wanted to have a baby with it. Although Mu Yu assured Xiao Shui that the Ink Devil Gorilla wouldn't fall in love with it, Xiao Shui still believed that this was very likely. When the time comes, just reject it. It's not the first time you've done this. Mu Yu remembered that when he was in the second layer of heaven, Xiao Shui had very cruelly rejected the courtship of a 6th-tier demon toad who had just fallen out of love. At that time, Xiao Shui seemed very indifferent. The ink goblin gorilla is different from other goblin beasts. They are very loyal. Once they fall in love, they will pester you to death. Xiao Shui said with a very serious expression. It's fine. When the time comes, I'll yell at it for you. It'll be so scared that it pisses its pants. Long Ting said nonchalantly. With your useless obscenity, you can only fool the ignorant little demons. The ink demon gorilla is not afraid of anything when it comes to courtship. Little Handsome said in annoyance. Mu Yu suddenly thought of something and asked curiously, speaking of which, Long Ting, aren't you a powerful true dragon? Why is he still at the Tier 5 realm? When the dragon vine first transformed into a dragon, it only had the strength of the nascent soul stage. At that time, it was still in a weak state. After it recovered, its cultivation level had already risen to the out-of-body stage. However, after such a long time, it was still in the out-of-body stage. It's a little lazy. It doesn't cultivate seriously every day. Little Handsome said casually. Long Ting glared at Little Handsome. Tui, I'm very hard-working, okay? I secretly absorb Mu Yu's spiritual energy every day. Mu Yu's face was full of black lines. Did I bring a parasite with me? Long Ting rubbed its huge dragon head against Mu Yu's hand and said, I've always looked down on humans and goblin beasts, but you're an exception. Mu Yu helplessly touched Long Ting's head. Should I feel proud? Long Ting said indifferently, anyway, I don't think you'll mind. Speaking of which, I don't know what's wrong. I feel that I've accumulated a lot of spiritual energy in my body, but it's hard for me to become a Tier 6 goblin beast. It's like I'm missing some kind of opportunity. Or rather, we dragons cultivate differently from other goblin beasts. I haven't found the correct cultivation method yet. Little Handsome laughed. The big earthworm is a little stupid. How can a dragon cultivate like it, sleeping every day? It doesn't even have the ability to transform into a human. Look at those fake dragons, any one of them is much stronger than it. That's because they have someone to teach them, but the big earthworm has no one to teach it. Why do I have to transform into a human? How can a human be as impressive as me? You can't transform into a human yourself, and you still have the nerve to talk about me. Long Ting retorted. Little Handsome was unhappy. Who said I can't transform into a human? Little Handsome, you can transform into a human? Mu Yu asked in surprise. He had never seen Little Handsome as a goblin. He had always thought that it was just a little foodie who occasionally knew some strange knowledge. I knew it a long time ago. It's just that I don't think humans are as handsome as me, so I didn't transform. Also, I'm not a goblin, nor a goblin beast. Little Handsome said proudly. Then what are you? A pile of shit? Long Ting mocked. You're the shit. I'm a god beast. Little Handsome glared at Long Ting. A crazy goblin beast, right? Long Ting said disdainfully. Mu Yu looked at these two guys with a headache. He realized that he had spent so much time with these two guys, but he knew very little about them. Little Handsome, this foodie, could transform into a human, but it just slept in his pocket every day. And Long Ting, as the second true dragon, had so much potential, but didn't know how to cultivate. It was very funny. Little Handsome, why don't you transform into a human for me to see? Mu Yu was very curious about what Little Handsome would look like if he transformed into a human. Little Handsome bit his finger and thought for a moment. I haven't thought of which human looks better, so I won't transform. You can become as handsome as me. Mu Yu touched his face. Become like you? Then forget it. Little Handsome rolled his eyes. F***ck. Am I not handsome? Not as handsome as me. Mu Yu resisted the urge to choke Little Handsome to death. Long Ting yawned indifferently. It didn't have a clear concept of handsome, because it felt that anything handsome wasn't as impressive as a dragon. In short, the three guys were very satisfied with their current appearance. The three narcissistic guys floated on the sea, while Little Handsome was still reluctantly fishing with his tail wagging. Since they were already lost on the sea, and they were all bad with directions, they weren't in a hurry. They began a heated discussion about the definition of handsome, and no one could convince anyone else. But at this moment, the surface of the sea suddenly became turbulent. Then, a terrifying aura rushed out from the bottom of the sea and overturned their small boat in an instant. This aura was so strong that it made Mu Yu's heart palpitate. Mu Yu quickly grabbed Little Handsome and Long Ting. Mu Ling's sword fell under Mu Yu's feet, helping him stabilize his body. Countless thick blue tentacles stretched out from the bottom of the sea. The suckers on the tentacles were like wash basins, and there were barbs that made people tremble. Then, a huge head stretched out from the bottom of the sea. It was a demon beast that looked like a gorilla. The gorilla's upper body was more than 10 meters tall, and its lower body was made up of 16 terrifying tentacles. It was strong and powerful, standing on the waves, mighty and domineering. Mu Yu swallowed his saliva. "Little Handsome, what rank is this demon beast?" Little Handsome said in annoyance, "It's usually a rank 4 demon beast." "Then what rank is this demon beast?" "Rank 7. F***ck. Mu Yu stared at Little Handsome. "I told you to catch a normal demon beast. Why did you catch a rank 7 demon beast? Is it up to me to decide who falls in love with me? I'm so handsome, anyone would fall in love with me." Little Handsome shouted in dissatisfaction. This was no longer a demon beast. It was more like a gorilla with 16 tentacles. Such a terrifying aura was far beyond Mu Yu's imagination. He originally wanted to grab it and squeeze out some ink in a friendly manner, and then let it go in a friendly manner. Now it seemed that the situation was out of control. However, the demon beast did not immediately attack Mu Yu. It did not even look at Mu Yu. Instead, it looked affectionately at Little Handsome, who was not even as big as its suckers. This kind of gaze appeared on an incomparably fierce demon beast. No matter how you looked at it, it was strange. Little Handsome also felt uncomfortable being stared at. Its mouth made a sila sound, and the demon beast also began to talk to Little Handsome intimately with sila. The demon beast moved its face closer. Its big eyes were almost half of Little Handsome's body. Under Mu Yu's astonished gaze, the demon beast actually showed a trace of shyness. That's right. It was a shy expression. That kind of gaze coupled with that kind of expression, it was definitely a shy little girl. Mu Yu was about to vomit blood. Who would have thought that Little Handsome would really capture the demon beast's heart? My God! Are these demon beasts fools? Don't they look at their own size? Can they give birth to Little Handsome together with Little Handsome? They actually fell in love with Little Handsome? There's something wrong with their brains. Mu Yu couldn't help but think in his heart. She said that because she's too strong and violent, many demon beasts don't like her. Only I released a courtship signal to her. My God! Is being handsome also a mistake? Little Handsome looked up to the sky and sighed. Mu Yu once again resisted the urge to choke Little Handsome to death. Tell it to squeeze ink, hurry up, Mu Yu urged. Little Handsome shook its head. It said that it can take us directly to the Demon Beast Island. It knows the way, but what? Dragon Ting curiously asked. But when I come back from the Demon Beast Island, it wants me to do something embarrassing with it. Little Handsome rubbed its temples with its small claws, feeling a little headache. Okay. No problem. Dragon Ting nodded. In any case, it wasn't the injured one. No problem, your sister. Little Handsome cursed. Mu Yu cast an encouraging look at Little Handsome. Little Handsome, you have to focus on the overall situation. Yes, someone has to make a sacrifice. This time I support you. Besides, I also want to see what Little Handsome looks like. Dragon Ting said very righteously. I refuse. I'll give you the Mermaid Crown's spiritual milk to eat. I refuse. Plus 30 drumsticks. Deal. Chapter 6:13. The surface of the sea was sparkling. Occasionally, seabirds would fly by. From time to time, some underwater monsters would jump out of the sea and fall back into the sea. However, at this moment, all the monsters and seabirds seemed to have noticed something and fled in panic. In the distance, a hill-like figure was rushing over. The 7th-rank monster, Ink Goblin Gorilla, had the upper body of a gorilla. It was more than 10 meters tall, and its shoulders were wider than a table. At this moment, Mu Yu was sitting on the Ink Goblin Gorilla's shoulder with Xiao Shuai and Long Ting, looking majestic. Mu Yu and Long Ting were very satisfied. Only Xiao Shuai was very unhappy because the Ink Goblin Gorilla kept turning its head from time to time and intimately winking at Xiao Shuai. "It really fell in love with me," Xiao Shuai said with annoyance. "When we reach the destination, you can break up with her," Long Ting said. "Am I such a heartless child? This is playing with people's feelings. That's a very shameful scumbag," Xiao Shuai said righteously. Mu Yu felt very strange. "Xiao Shuai, didn't you also refuse the 6th-rank monster toad's courtship last time? At that time, I didn't see you playing with people's feelings. The monster toad is different from the Ink Goblin Gorilla. If I break my promise, it will chase me to the ends of the earth," Xiao Shuai said. "It's okay. When we return to the 3rd continent, it won't be able to catch up," Long Ting comforted. "Then I won't go back to the sea for the rest of my life?" Xiao Shuai asked. "Why do you want to go back to the sea in the future?" Mu Yu asked strangely. "That's true." Xiao Shuai held the wooden coconut and sucked in a mouthful of spiritual milk. Mu Yu thought for a moment. "But I still suggest that you fulfill your promise. After all, you have to be an upright and responsible child. You are so handsome, and your child will definitely be like you." "No." Xiao Shuai sucked in another mouthful of spiritual milk. Mu Yu shrugged helplessly. Just a moment ago, it said that a man who abandoned a woman was a scumbag. Now it was unwilling to do so. They had been galloping on the sea for a day and a night. Yesterday they were drifting with the current, completely in the opposite direction of the Demon Island. No matter how fast the Ink Demon Gorilla was, it still took a long time. At noon on the 2nd day, the Ink Demon Gorilla finally stopped. Mu Yu also felt that there was something wrong with his surroundings. The sea here was abnormally calm, without any waves, just like the water in a pond. There were no fluctuations at all. This shouldn't happen in the sea. There was still a faint fog floating on the surface of the sea. There were no seagulls or sea beasts in the surroundings. It seemed as if they had come to a forbidden zone for life. "Si la si la." The Ink Goblin Gorilla began to cry out. It did not seem to want to continue forward. "What's wrong?" Mu Yu asked. "It said that the Demon Clan's sacred island is in front, but it's very scary there now, so it doesn't want to go any further." Little Shuai translated. "Very scary? Even a 7th-order demon beast is so scared?" Mu Yu frowned. Thousands of years ago, human cultivators forcibly attacked the Demon Island and fought a bloody battle with the sea demons. The sea demons were completely annihilated, and the Demon Island became a terrifying ghost island and was sealed off. For thousands of years, the route to the Demon Island had been forgotten. The Demon Clan had a strong sense of protection for their own territory. Even the Azure Dragon Monster King did not know where the island of the Sea Demon King Yujiang was, let alone human cultivators. But now, even the 7th-order demon beast did not want to go to the Demon Island. Who knew what had happened there? Where is the Demon Island? Mu Yu looked around. Not to mention the island, he didn't even see a ghost shadow. Little Mo said that if we row the boat in front of the sea will gradually change. No matter what we encounter, we should not resist and let nature take its course. Little Shuai said. "Oh, little Mo, so intimate." Dragon Ting laughed. "It said it's called Little Mo, are you retarded?" Little Shuai scolded. Mu Yu held back his laughter and quickly turned Mu Ling into a boat. He jumped onto the boat from the shoulder of the demon ape. The demon ape stretched out its big tentacles and waved. Its eyes were still reluctant to part. At the same time, it was saying something. Mu Yu didn't need little Shuai to translate. He knew what the other party was saying. It must be telling little Shuai to go and come back quickly. It was waiting for little Shuai here. Little Shuai was very depressed because it didn't like little Momo. Maybe it felt that little Momo was not handsome enough. Mu Yu took out 2 paddles and began to row in the direction little Momo pointed to on the calm sea. At first, the sea was very calm. After half an hour of paddling Mu Yu, the sea began to gradually ripple. At this time, the sea began to flow in one direction. The water gradually became very turbulent. Mu Yu didn't need to paddle anymore. He just floated along with the sea. Other than the sound of the waves, there was no other sound. The boat floated faster and faster. In the end, it didn't feel like it was floating, but flying. Then, the boat suddenly shook violently. Then, the hull began to shake violently. Then, it began to spin with the sea. Mu Yu was surprised to see that there was a huge whirlpool about 100 meters in diameter in front of them. At this moment, they were about to be sucked into this huge whirlpool. Mu Yu was a little worried. He wasn't worried that the boat would disintegrate. He was worried that he would be submerged by the sea again. If demons and ghosts rushed out from the surroundings, he would be caught off guard. However, Momo had just said not to resist and to let nature take its course. Therefore, Mu Yu did not control the wood spirits to leave the whirlpool. Instead, she let the boat circle around the edge of the whirlpool and rush towards the center of the whirlpool. The center of the whirlpool was like a huge hole, like a funnel. They didn't know where this whirlpool would take them. Soon, the boat approached the center of the whirlpool. The bottom of the whirlpool was like the mouth of a well. All the seawater was poured into this hole in the center. Mu Yu's boat was also sucked into this hole by the rapid whirlpool and began to fall quickly. Mu Ling stretched out 2 vines to tie his waist to prevent him from falling out. It was like falling into an abyss. They were surrounded by sea water. They didn't know where they would fall. After falling for about half an hour, a wave rolled over and completely covered them. Then, the boat trembled again. With a plop sound, they fell back into the sea. At this time, they were still in the whirlpool. The only difference was that the whirlpool was rotating in the opposite direction. This time, they were circling from the center of the whirlpool. Soon, the sea water brought them back to the surface of the sea. But at this moment, everything changed because the seawater here was actually black. Why is it so strange? Is that whirlpool a passage? How can we still rotate from the center of the whirlpool? Did we come to the opposite side of the sea? Mu Yu cautiously looked around. There was still a vast fog around. He clearly fell into the whirlpool passage, and then after falling out of the passage, he came to another sea. It was very strange. But when he looked at the sea again, he suddenly found a strange island in the distance. This island was very strange. Its position was dozens of meters above the sea surface, but the sea water was flowing from the sea surface to the island. After coming to this sea, the direction of the sea water seemed to have changed. It was no longer flowing from top to bottom, but from bottom to top. The island was quite strange. It was flashing with a strange red light. From time to time, a light would sweep out, rippling out, accompanied by bursts of ghostly wailing and wolf howling. At the same time, the island exuded a very heavy aura, like a crouching tiger about to pounce. There were also bursts of strange white light, which made Mu Yu have to be vigilant. The boat gradually moved towards the island, but Mu Yu didn't rashly approach it directly. Instead, he stopped on a black reef. If there was no mistake, then this towering island must be the residence of the sea demon King Yujiang. However, Mu Yu remembered that the people of the Gate of Hell had come here once, but the first time, they seemed to have encountered some accidents. Some people of the Gate of Hell came here but didn't return. They didn't succeed in achieving their goal. This showed that this island must be full of danger. Mu Yu didn't know what the danger was, but since this was the demon island with many souls, even the people of the Gate of Hell, who specialized in dealing with souls, died. Even if Mu Yu had Mu Ling, he didn't dare to be careless. He began to observe the pattern of the light on the distant demon island. About every 2 breaths, the demon island would emit a powerful aura, sweeping out. This aura was very strong, comparable to a fusion stage master. Mu Yu remembered that when he was in Mo Yun mountain range, Red Dragon Duke once told Daoist Johua about this situation. At that time, Red Dragon Duke and 2 companions came to this place. Red Dragon Duke was a moment behind because of something, and the 2 companions couldn't wait to go to the demon island to check it out. As a result, they were directly swept by a demonic red light. Their flesh and blood directly exploded, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky and was sucked into the demon island. Red Dragon Duke should be talking about this red light in front of him. Red Dragon Duke's 2 companions only had the cultivation of the Jindan period, so they couldn't survive this red light at all. Mu Yu also didn't have the confidence to resist this red light that was comparable to a fusion stage attack. He had to observe for a while first. When the demonic red light swept out, the whole island seemed to become a little blurry. When the red light dissipated, the island became real. The island was full of colorful lights, as if there were some treasures on it. But thinking that this was the battlefield between human cultivators and demons thousands of years ago, countless cultivators and demons died, there must be many magic treasures left on it. Mu Yu didn't come for these magic treasures. He came for the people of the Gate of Hell. If he guessed correctly, the people of the Gate of Hell should have already gone up. Maybe they were now busy cleaning up the souls on the demon island, but he didn't know if Boss Lu and the others had arrived. Chapter 6:14. The sound of the explosion was very abrupt, just like the sound of a pill exploding. As the sound of the explosion spread, the sky above the demon island seemed to be shattered. Strange black marks appeared, looking like cracks from afar. At this time, a sinister ghost chi appeared in the center of the demon island. It was the people from the Gate of Hell. The people from the Gate of Hell had obviously come to the demon island a long time ago. Mu Yu didn't know whether they came here on the same way as him, but at this moment, the people from the Gate of Hell had already begun to move. Mu Yu couldn't wait any longer. He had just calculated the interval between the appearance of these red lights. Every 2 breaths, an extremely powerful aura would sweep out, so Mu Yu must enter the island within these 2 breaths. However, Mu Yu didn't have the ability to directly enter the demon island within 2 breaths of time. It would take Mu Yu at least 4 breaths of time to reach the demon island from the periphery of the red light. The red light spread out with the demon island as the center. There was no blind spot. At present, if he wanted to enter the demon island safely, he must rely on the help of Mu Ling. Mu Ling's body was incomparably hard. It was absolutely no problem for him to resist a blow from a combination stage expert. Mu Yu integrated with Mu Ling. The moment the red light disappeared, Mu Ling quickly rushed in. He intended to use Mu Ling's toughness to directly rush in. He had already raised his speed to the limit. 2 breaths of time passed in a flash. The strange red light swept out again, and a powerful impact instantly blasted Mu Ling's body. However, although Mu Ling didn't show any signs of collapse, he was directly swept away by the powerful aura and fell directly at the end of the red light. Damn it, this power is too strong. Even if Mu Ling is not destroyed, he will still be swept away. There is no way he can get close to it. Mu Yu came out and looked at the demonic red light again. He continued to observe for a moment and began to pay attention to the pattern of the red light. Soon, he discovered that when the demonic red light swept out, it was a layer of enchantment that spread outwards. It was impossible to teleport over using enchantment. He had to use other methods. "Little Handsome, what do you suggest?" Mu Yu asked. Little Shuai was still pouting and looking unhappy. It was obvious that he was still thinking about little Mo. This is a barrier created by the Fae themselves to prevent outsiders from invading. How would I know about this? Little Commander said. Dragon Vine swung its tail. Can we do it underwater? Muyu shook his head. The demon island was floating in midair, and the enchantment barrier was spreading outwards in a spherical shape with the island as the center. If one wanted to enter from the bottom of the sea, they would encounter the enchantment barrier's obstruction. Then how did the people from the Gate of Hell get in? Dragon Vine asked. Muyu was also thinking about this problem. The power of this enchantment was equivalent to the full power attack of a Heaven Integration Stage cultivator. Even an ordinary Heaven Integration Stage cultivator wouldn't be able to resist it. If Muyu wasn't wrong, the first failure of the people from the Gate of Hell should be due to this enchantment. This enchantment must have killed several people from the Gate of Hell and blocked their path to the island. They had no choice but to go back and find Gui Yeming. This enchantment could block a Heaven Integration Stage cultivator, but Gui Yeming's cultivation was at least at the Transcending Tribulation stage. With his cultivation, this enchantment wouldn't be able to stop him. Muyu didn't have Gui Yeming's cultivation, so it would be a bit difficult for him to get on the island. At this time, another loud sound came from the demon island. This time, the sound of the explosion was even stronger than the first one. Among the explosion, a dense ghost aura soared into the sky from the demon island. No one knew what the people of Ghoul sect were doing on the island. If only Big Sister Qiao Shui was here. Didn't you see that when the enchantment was released, the seawater didn't move? Big Sister Qiao Shui should be able to take us through the enchantment. Little Shuai said regretfully. Muyu landed on the outermost edge of the red enchantment. He felt the red light disappear an inch before his eyes. He was thinking about how to enter the island. He extended Mu Ling forward an inch. When the red enchantment surged over, he directly pushed Mu Ling away. But Little Shuai suddenly thought of something. He patted his head and said, "How could I forget this matter? I know how to get through this enchantment." Muyu's eyes lit up. He quickly asked, "How do we get through this enchantment?" Little Shuai cleared his throat and then began to sing. "Ah, Luca, I told you to answer. Why did you learn to sing?" Muyu simply wanted to shut Little Shuai's mouth. His singing was so bad, but he liked to be intoxicated with himself. Didn't you hear how the mermaid sang? In fact, the mermaid already told us how to enter the island. I'll sing for you. Little Shuai insisted on singing. Muyu touched his forehead. Listening to Little Shuai's singing really gave him a headache. "Ah, beautiful Little Shuai, you are my king's paradise. Only with respect can you obtain my king's audience." Little Shuai emphasized this sentence. Respect. Muyu suddenly remembered something. When they were in the underground palace of the second-layer White Ape Demon King, they were blocked by a blue barrier. Little Shuai told them that they could only pass if they didn't show any bad intentions. It seemed that if they wanted to pass through this enchantment, they would need a similar method. "It's impossible for me to respect them." Dragon Vine proudly raised his head. Muyu helplessly shrugged his shoulders. "Little Shuai, you go and try first." Little Shuai spread out his limbs and began to sing an unpleasant song. Then he slowly flew towards the enchantment. Muyu wasn't worried that Little Shuai would be defeated by the enchantment. Little Shuai's skin was famous. No matter how strong the enchantment's lethality was, it couldn't do anything to Little Shuai. "Great Little Shuai! You are my pride, I am proud of you." Little Shuai was singing at the top of his voice. When the red enchantment swept over him, it actually didn't bounce him off. "Little Shuai, what are you thinking about right now?" Muyu shouted. Muyu was sure that Little Shuai's mind was definitely not filled with respect for the Sea Goblin King. He must be thinking about something related to eating. As long as you don't think about your purpose here, it's fine. Don't think about robbing anything on the island, and don't be hostile to the monster race. The best way to empty your mind is to sing. Focus on singing and you won't think about anything else. After little Shuai finished speaking, he continued to sing at the top of his voice. Red enchantments swept over little Shuai's body one after another. Little Shuai was still safe and sound. What kind of crap did the monster race come up with? Muyu glanced at Dragonvine. He grabbed Dragonvine and merged it into Mu Ling. The more he didn't think about it, the more his mind would think about his purpose here. Therefore, Mu Ling was swept away several times. Meanwhile, Dragonvine yawned and simply went to sleep. That way, he wouldn't think about anything else. Muyu tried his best to calm himself down. He circulated the falling dust mental cultivation method several times and gradually calmed his heart down. Then, he focused on little Shuai's singing. He discovered that little Shuai's singing was really bad. He was tone-deaf. However, this guy was narcissistic and thick-skinned and liked to sing. He really didn't know what was wrong with him. Muyu thought about little Shuai. At this time, the red enchantments didn't attack him and directly passed through Mu Ling. At this time, little Shuai began to sing the song Little Shuai. I'm your little Shuai. No matter how much you love me, it's never too much. Handsome little Shuai warms your heart and lights the fire of your life. Ha ha. Muyu found that he couldn't help but hum along with little Shuai. This song was really brainwashing. However, when this brainwashing song hovered in Muyu's mind, he really directly diverted his attention. In this way, accompanied by little Shuai's unpleasant singing, Muyu finally landed on the demon island. A strange demonic aura assaulted his nostrils. Muyu stood on a reef. Under his feet was the red enchantment. At this time, it couldn't hurt them. Muyu pulled little Shuai's tail and took out a drumstick to block its mouth, not letting it sing again. He glanced around and didn't see any plants. Instead, he saw bones all over the ground. The eerie white bones had been eroded by the passage of time and cracks had appeared. These bones were of the human race, the demon race, and even the bones of powerful high-level demon beasts. Many of the skeletons had countless wounds on their bodies. There were also some skeletons whose heads were separated from their bodies. There were many holes in their skulls. There was even a shining broken sword in their eye sockets. These flying swords were clearly the magical treasures of cultivators. Many of them had been damaged for thousands of years and their spiritual energy had long since disappeared. They looked very dilapidated. Those that could be completely preserved were definitely good stuff. Muyu, let's collect these magical treasures. After selling them, we can buy a lot of drumsticks, little Shuai cheerfully said. Muyu knew that many of these magical treasures were expensive. Although they couldn't be compared to his shadow clone sword, if these magical treasures were to be sold, they would definitely be able to sell for a good price. This opportunity couldn't be missed. Little Shuai jumped onto the skull of a demon beast. There was an axe that happened to be chopped on the skull. It struggled to pull the axe out. This axe was orange and flashed with a very powerful aura. According to Muyu's estimation, it was at least a 7th-rank magical treasure. In other words, it was nourished by the spiritual energy of a body fusion stage cultivator all year round. As for how high the cultivation of the owners of these skeletons were when they were alive, it was actually very easy to identify. Those bones that were crushed by little Shuai's stomp were relatively weak. As for those bones that couldn't be crushed, most of them had very high cultivation when they were alive. Their cultivation was at least at the spirit-severing stage. Muyu looked at the skeletons everywhere. He could completely imagine how cruel the war was. Although the human race had exterminated the demon race, they had also paid a painful price. Hiss! At this moment, little Shuai suddenly stomped on a huge pitch-black skeleton. Then, countless white shadows rushed out of the skeleton and made strange cries in the air. Chapter 6:15. The Great War between the human race and the demon race ended with the demon race being annihilated. However, this demon island was very strange. Those dead souls couldn't escape from this island and were trapped here forever. Over time, all the souls became wandering ghosts. What surprised Mu Yu was that these resentful souls were emitting a strong soul power. Their bodies were covered in a white light. They were different from the souls that Mu Yu had seen before. When he fought with the people of the Gate of Hell, those resentful souls were more like mindless beasts. They only knew how to charge around. But these resentful souls on the island only flickered with a white light. They didn't charge at Mu Yu, but instead stared at Mu Yu. Mu Yu felt his hair stand on end. If these souls charged at him, he could at least take out the Mu Ling to deal with them. But right now, not a single soul was charging at him. This made him feel a little overwhelmed. Strange, these souls, they have consciousness. Little Commander was very surprised. Consciousness. Mu Yu felt that this was very inconceivable. After a person died, if they didn't have a tyrannical special method, such as Deadwood Daddy's soul anchoring array, or the special techniques of the people of the Gate of Hell, there was no way to preserve the consciousness of a soul. Once a long time passed, the consciousness of the soul would be swallowed up. But Little Commander said that these souls still retained their consciousness. I finally see a cultivator on the island. A white shadow suddenly floated in front of Mu Yu and spoke in a very ethereal voice. This bastard soul could really speak. Hello? Mu Yu very politely greeted. Etiquette would leave a good impression no matter where he was, even if the other party wasn't human. He looked at the white soul in front of him. In any case, he had seen all kinds of strange things. When he was in the underground palace of the Sand Eagle Demon King, he saw a living Een corpse. These souls that had died thousands of years ago still retained consciousness and could talk. No matter what, when he met Big Brother Lu and Old Tortoise in the second heaven, their souls had been preserved by a special method. The soul that spoke up was a middle-aged cultivator. He was still wearing the clothes that he had worn when he was still alive. He appeared to be a cultivator from a certain sect. However, Mu Yu did not recognize the sect. As soon as this middle-aged cultivator appeared, many of the white figures took on the appearance of real people. They began to appear around Mu Yu and looked at Mu Yu. It's been 5,000 years. Finally, someone alive has come to this island, the middle-aged cultivator said, a look of excitement and frustration on his face. Looking at Mu Yu was like looking at a rare treasure. Yes, I didn't expect that it would take so many years for someone to find this place. A fat old man sighed. Finding this place is also a kind of fate. I don't know if you can help us. A young woman stared at Mu Yu, as if she wanted to see something from Mu Yu. Mu Yu felt a little uneasy. This was the first time a group of souls had seen him, and they were all expressing a mess of emotions. This scene was too strange. I'm just passing by. I don't want to disturb your rest. Can I go now? Mu Yu asked tentatively. He didn't feel any hostility from these souls. Based on the "if others don't offend me, I won't offend them" mentality, he didn't need to use Mu Ling to drive these souls away. The middle-aged cultivator laughed. This island is divided into two factions. If you leave our territory, you will be killed by the demons. Do you plan to go to the demons' side? Mu Yu didn't quite understand. Were the souls on this island ganging up on each other? I'm called Bo Hong. This is Helian Kong and Mu Mengfei. What's your name? The middle-aged man, Bo Hong, introduced the fat old man and the young woman to Mu Yu. Bo Hong didn't introduce the other souls. It was obvious that these souls were led by these three people. Mu Yu hesitated for a moment and felt that there was nothing to hide. He said, "Greetings, seniors. I'm called Mu Yu from the Dancauldron sect." Mu Yu originally wanted to say the Falling Dust sect, but when he thought about how no one had heard of the Falling Dust sect, he simply said the Dancauldron sect. The Dancauldron sect had been passed down for thousands of years and had a resounding reputation. These people should know about it. After all, alchemists were very popular in the cultivation world. The fat old man was called Heliankong. He said in surprise, "You're from the Dan Cauldron sect? Then you're my junior. What level of alchemist are you?" Mu Yu spread his hands helplessly. They could even find the seniors of the Dan Cauldron sect. What else could he say? "What rank is my alchemist rank?" This. Let me think. Mu Yu stroked his chin. To be honest, he had never considered this question. He felt that he was a half-baked alchemist, or rather, he wasn't an alchemist at all. It was only because of his special ability that he could firmly control every alchemist. "Little kid, you have the cultivation of the spirit-severing stage at such a young age? Could it be that you're a 6th-rank alchemist?" Heliankong asked in amazement. 6th-rank alchemist? Mu Yu nodded. In any case, the poison techniques he learned from Deadwood Daddy were enough to let him be comparable to a 6th-rank alchemist, so he didn't feel guilty at all. "I didn't expect that a talented junior like you would appear in my Dan Cauldron sect." "Good. Good." Heliankong couldn't help but praise. "Why did you, an alchemist, come to the Demon Island alone? Is there anyone else coming?" the young woman, Mu Mengfei, asked. When she said this, Mu Yu suddenly remembered that there were still people from the Gate of Hell on the island. He quickly said, "Let's not talk about this first. The people from the Gate of Hell have also entered the Demon Island. They are specifically targeting you souls. Didn't you see the people from the Gate of Hell?" "People from the Gate of Hell? No, there isn't a second human on this island besides you. If the people from the Gate of Hell came, we would know," Bo Hong said very confidently. "Are you sure?" Mu Yu looked at Bo Hong doubtfully because he clearly remembered that when he was outside the island, he clearly felt a powerful ghost aura soaring into the sky from the Demon Island. Boom! The third explosion sounded again, and then a monstrous ghost aura rushed into the sky from the distance. "This is the aura of the people from the Gate of Hell." Mu Yu pointed at the ghost aura in the distance and said. Heliankong laughed. "You misunderstood. This is the battle between the Gue Shitsi and the demon race. The Gue Shitsi was from the Gate of Hell when he was alive, but there aren't any living people from the Gate of Hell on this island." "Gue Shitsi?" Mu Yu remembered that when his master was framed by Gue Xianyue in the Moyen mountain range, he once mentioned a person. That person was the Gue Shitsi. Feng Haochen once said that the Gue Shitsi lineage's evil techniques were the reason for the Gue Shitsi's death. He didn't expect the Gue Shitsi to be trapped on this island. Fighting against the demon race? The demon race is still alive? Mu Yu asked in surprise. Bo Hong shook his head. "There aren't any living people on this island, only you. 5,000 years ago, we humans and demons fought bravely, and countless people died. The dead humans and demons all turned into souls, but we are still fighting for territory in the form of souls. Souls can't touch each other, so how do you fight against each other? Rock, paper, scissors?" Little Shuai asked curiously. Mu Yu held back his laughter. He knew some of the restrictions of souls. Souls were illusory, and could harm living people, but they couldn't kill each other. This was a very strange rule of the heavenly Tao. "You'll know when you come with me." Heliankong didn't care about Little Shuai's teasing at all. Instead, he swept Mu Yu up with his boundless soul power and swept him towards the ghost aura in the distance. Mu Yu looked at the soul power emanating from Heliankong's body in surprise. Everyone would produce soul power after death, this was something he knew. However, this soul power would leave the body and dissipate in the human world. It would be taken away by the 3 palaces and turned into the power of the 3 palaces. However, Heliankong and the others seemed to have completely preserved their soul power after death. Could this be the reason why they didn't lose their consciousness? Heliankong brought Mu Yu and flew for a while. They went around the hill full of broken rocks and stopped at the peak of a hill. Then, Mu Yu's expression became very astonished. Mu Yu was extremely shocked. He finally knew how these souls fought. Looking down from the peak, there was a huge basin. At this moment, there were two huge and strangely shaped skeletons in the basin. These two skeletons were pieced together from different bones and looked very strange. One of the skeletons was about 10 meters tall. It looked like a human. Its huge head was made up of small human skulls. Many parts of its body were inlaid with bones. In its left hand was a huge sharp bone saber made up of various ribs and leg bones, and in its right hand was a huge shield made up of various pelvic bones. There was also a pair of huge wings on the back, but the wings were pieced together from shoulder blade. Rather than calling them wings, it was better to call them sharp weapons to attack the enemy. Every joint was made up of a human skull. Upon closer inspection, one could see that each of the skulls had the soul of a human cultivator attached to them. Furthermore, there were also two miniature souls standing in the eye sockets of the skulls. These souls seemed to be controlling the huge skeleton and were locked in a battle with the other skeleton. The other skeleton was completely formed from the bones of various demonic beasts. Obviously, it was controlled by the souls of demonic beasts. The skeletons that demonic beasts used to piece together had more choices and were more varied. After all, there were many types of demonic beasts. There were all kinds of demonic beasts that could fly in the sky, crawl on the ground, and swim in the water. Meanwhile, humans could only use human skeletons to piece them together, so it was much more monotonous. These two skeletons fought fiercely under the control of their respective souls. The hard bones collided with each other, and the muffled sounds of collisions were incessant. It was like watching two giants fight, very barbaric. You guys used your own remains and bones to fight? Muyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This kind of scene was really too inconceivable. Souls couldn't fight each other, so they pieced together their own bones from when they were alive to fight against the demonic beasts? That's right. We call these huge skeletons assembled together bone battle soldiers. So far, our human race has already won 78,961 matches in this kind of battle, Helion Kong said. Then what about the demonic beast? Of course they lost 748,961 games. Then how many matches have they won? Muyu asked again. Helion Kong humphed heavily, seeming to be very angry at this question. After the demonic beasts die, they will once again take the form of demonic beasts. Thus, their bones can be created much better than ours. Now they have won 89,927 matches, Mu Mengfei said on behalf of Helion Kong. Chapter 6:16. So your life on the Demon Island is to hold a few bone battles every day? Muyu really felt that the world was big and full of strange things. How could there be such a game? We are all cultivators who fought to the death for the human race. We can't reincarnate if we die on this island. As souls, we can only continue to fight against the demon race's souls. This is our mission, Helion Kong proudly said. So you really don't mind using your own bones to fight? Muyu really couldn't imagine that they would have such a strange idea. Bo Hong helplessly nodded his head. At first we minded, but later we found that the demon race always used their bones to drive us away. Souls can't kill each other, but they found a special kind of sea demon blood. When it is smeared on the bones, it causes unbearable pain to the soul. Although this demon island is very big, it also forced our human race's souls to a dead end. So we can only start to resist. How many human and demon race souls are there on this island? Muyu stroked his chin and felt that it was not unreasonable for them to engage in this kind of bone war. Everyone was imprisoned on this island by some kind of mysterious force. 5,000 years was indeed very boring. It was understandable for them to play with their own bones to relieve boredom, although it was still very strange to think about that kind of scene. There are 19,371 human souls and 18,533 demon souls, Mu Mengfei said. According to their explanation, The souls on the island wouldn't be destroyed because there was a mysterious power protecting this place. After a cultivator died, the higher their cultivation before death, the stronger their soul power, and the more power they could display when controlling their bones. Here, Helian Kong, Bo Hong, Mu Mengfei, and Gui Shitzi were all at the crossing calamity stage when they were alive. So they became the leaders of the human race's souls, leading the human race and the demon race to continue the war. For thousands of years there were constant conflicts, and it was often a fierce battle. Later, after the two races negotiated, they decided to use a relatively fair battle rule to determine the territory. Each side controlled a bone battle soldier to fight. If the other side's bone battle soldier was completely destroyed, then it was considered a victory. The island was divided into two halves by a dividing line. The losing side moved back 1 meter of territory. The human race had lost more than 60,000 battles, which meant that they had lost about 60 kilometers of territory. While they were explaining to Muyu saw that the wings of the giant skeleton warriors on the human clan's side had been torn off by the monster clan. Their bones were all broken on the ground. Don't you guys feel tired fighting every day? Have you never thought of living in harmony with the demon race? In any case, you guys can't kill each other, Muyu said helplessly. However, Helian Kong said very solemnly, this concerns the honor of the human race. There is no such thing as tiredness, only victory or defeat. Muyu touched his forehead. He didn't know how to correct the thoughts of these souls, but there were still many things he didn't understand. Every time we fight, a lot of bones break. Where did you get so many bones? Bo Hong explained, we only select the bones of cultivators with very strong bones to assemble for battle. We don't use the fragile ones. If the bones we select are broken, the demon subduing pagoda will help to repair the bones at night. The demon subduing pagoda has a powerful aura that can nourish the bones. It can reassemble the bones in one night. Muyu opened his mouth. He felt as if he had accidentally discovered a new world. What kind of strange place was this? There was actually such a heaven-defying operation? What is the demon subduing pagoda? Muyu asked. The human bone battle soldier in the basin once again released a terrifying ghost aura and forcefully removed one of the demon race's bone arms. However, it also paid the price of breaking its leg. The demon subduing pagoda is a very powerful Dharma treasure. In the past, during the war between the human race and the demon race, a powerful human called Taoist Master Xian Jizi used the demon subduing pagoda to suppress the Sea Demon King Yuzhang's 7 great sea demon protectors. The Sea Demon King himself was also sealed in the demon subduing pagoda. Helian Kong said with a face full of admiration. The Sea Demon King Yuzhang is also in the demon subduing pagoda? Then where is the demon subduing pagoda? Muyu had thought that the Sea Demon King would be sealed in some other place. In the end, he was sealed in the territory of his own dynasty. Helian Kong revealed a guilty expression and said, the demon subduing pagoda has always been guarded by the souls of the human race 5,000 years ago. However, just a few hundred years ago, the demon race gradually invaded our territory and forced us to retreat. Now, the land of the demon subduing pagoda has also fallen into the hands of the demon race. Don't worry. Souls are unable to approach the demon subduing pagoda. There is an extremely powerful protective formation outside. It's useless even if they snatch it, Mu Mengfei said. The demon island had become the place where the two soul races fought each other. However, according to the current situation, the human race had gradually fallen into a disadvantageous position in the many years of fighting, because their bones were not as diverse as the bones of the demon race. Muyu was even more confused. Since the demon subduing pagoda is in the hands of the demon race, then what will happen if your bones are damaged? After the demon subduing pagoda absorbs the moonlight every night, it will emit a strange aura that will cover the entire demon island. Therefore, even if we don't obtain the land of the demon-subduing pagoda, we can still be enveloped by the good fortune of the demon-subduing pagoda, Mu Mengfei said. Bo Hong solemnly said, even so, we still have the responsibility to guard the demon-subduing pagoda. Now that the demon-subduing pagoda has fallen into the hands of the demon race, we must recover that lost land. Otherwise, when the other demon race members from the outside world find this place, they will think of a way to enter the demon-subduing pagoda and release the Sea Demon King. That would be bad. The human race skeleton battle soldier in the basin suddenly jumped high up in fury. It risked losing its head as it ruthlessly chopped at the demon race skeleton battle soldier's upper body with its bone blade. However, several enormous bone tails suddenly shot out from the ground, instantly trapping the human race skeleton battle soldier. Following that, several tentacles stretched out and tore the human race skeleton battle soldier apart. Crash! Bones flew all over the sky. The human race skeleton battle soldier had already been torn apart and scattered all over the ground. The human race had lost another round. Helian Kong and the other two's expressions were very ugly. They could only angrily look at the arrogant demon race members and laugh as they watched the demarcation line move 1 meter closer to the human race's territory. After that, the human race was very angry. However, because the rules had already been set, the human race couldn't say anything. Many of the demon race and human race souls that were watching from the sidelines each held a bone blade. The bone blades were all stained with something that could cause pain to the soul. They glared at each other like tigers eyeing their prey. However, no one made a move. The rules had already been set, and there was no need to break them. The fourth leader of the human race souls, Gui Yezi, who had been a member of the Gate of Hell in his previous life, walked back with a gloomy expression. Helian Kong told Gui Yezi about Mu Yu's arrival. Gui Yezi only glanced at Mu Yu indifferently. He didn't even bother to greet him. Mu Yu didn't like the people of the Gate of Hell. The people of the Gate of Hell did things that offended the heavens and reason. Even if Gui Yezi was a soul, Mu Yu didn't think that he was a good guy. Helian Kong said that Mu Yu was the first person to come to the Demon Island. This meant that Gui Yeming and the others might have encountered some accidents midway and hadn't arrived yet. Once they arrived, then Mu Yu would be in danger. Because Mu Yu was a disciple of the Pill Cauldron sect, Helian Kong was very close to Mu Yu. He kept asking about the current situation of the Pill Cauldron sect. When he heard that the Pill Cauldron sect's 7th-tier alchemists were about to go extinct, Helian Kong was a little dissatisfied. This was because in his era, the Pill Cauldron sect had at least 27th-tier alchemists. Mu Yu also knew about the current situation of the Demon Island. He also understood that there were some restrictions on the island. For example, one couldn't fly too high on the island because there was a powerful force on the island that sealed off the entire island. The demon-subduing pagoda was very tall and couldn't be seen during the day. It would only be visible under the moonlight. At that time, the entire island would be able to see it. Helian Kong was a member of the Pill Cauldron sect, Gui Yezi was a member of the Gate of Hell, and Mu Mengfei was a member of the Profound Spirit sect. When Bo Hong was alive, he was a rogue cultivator with a very high cultivation. Mu Yu thought for a moment. He glanced at Gui Yezi with vigilance. Then, he found an opportunity to be alone with Helian Kong and told Helian Kong about the people of the Gate of Hell coming to the island. Senior, you also know that the martial arts of the people of the Gate of Hell are very strange. They rely on sacrificing souls. Soon, the people of the Gate of Hell will come to this island. I'm afraid that their purpose of coming to this island is to target souls like you, Mu Yu said seriously. Helian Kong smiled and patted Mu Yu's shoulder. Souls with soul power could touch physical bodies. However, Helian Kong's hand was very cold. Mu Yu felt as if a piece of ice had invaded his shoulder. Don't worry, we are not pure souls. The people of the Gate of Hell can't do anything to us. You have to know that Gui Yezi was also a very powerful member of the Gate of Hell. However, after he died on this island, even his twins were scattered. The power of this island seriously restrained the martial arts of the people of the Gate of Hell. It also protected all of our souls from dissipating. Therefore, even if the people of the Gate of Hell came here, it would be useless. Mu Yu looked at Helian Kong's confident expression and didn't refute. However, he knew that the person who came to the island this time was the protector of the Gate of Hell, Gui Yeming. He wasn't a simple person. According to Helian Kong, Mu Yu couldn't cause any harm to these souls when he used Mu Ling. This was very strange. The Mu Ling, which had the purest death energy in the world, couldn't do anything to these souls. The mysterious power of this island was indeed very powerful. Mu Yu thought for a moment and continued to ask. Senior, Junior's master, Deadwood Evergreen, was also a powerful alchemist. However, he was killed by the people of the Threefold Palace. Now, his soul is damaged and has been in a coma. Senior, do you have a way to repair his soul? How did your master provoke the people of the Threefold Palace? Helian Kong asked seriously. Mu Yu sighed. He didn't know how to explain. Even 5,000 years ago, the Threefold Palace ruled the entire Threefold continent. However, cultivators didn't discover the true face of the Threefold Palace. Senior, the matter is very complicated, but my master is the branch master of the Green Bamboo Peak. His mishap is a huge blow to the Alchemy Cauldron sect. Senior, do you have a way to heal the damage to the soul? Mu Yu asked earnestly. He told Helian Kong about the soul fixation array. In order to prove his identity, he also took out the token of the branch master of the Green Bamboo Peak. Helian Kong recognized this token. With this token, Helian Kong no longer doubted Mu Yu's identity. After all, something like a branch master's token couldn't be casually faked. Chapter 6:17. But what? Mu Yu hurriedly asked. Helian Kong said, let me put it this way. The reason why our souls haven't dissipated after death is because of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. The aura of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda can ensure that our souls don't dissipate, but it also directly restricts us to this island. I think the light of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda can heal the wounds on your master's soul, but it can't say for sure that your master's soul will be imprisoned on this island forever. This was not what Mu Yu wanted. What kind of resurrection was imprisoning his father on this island? After hearing this, Mu Yu shook his head and said, is there no other way? He didn't want to take this risk. It was naturally best if the wounds on Deadwood Daddy's soul could be healed, but if he was imprisoned on this island because of this was something Mu Yu absolutely didn't want to see. Helian Kong said, I'm not sure, but I can help you ask Gui Yuzi. He might know something. Mu Yu tactfully rejected Helian Kong's proposal. He didn't believe in people from the Gate of Hell, and he also didn't want to entrust Deadwood Daddy's life to people from the Gate of Hell. In short, you can see the Yao Ceiling Pagoda tonight and see if its light can heal your master. Your master can cultivate such a young sixth-tier alchemist like you. He must be a good person himself, Helian Kong said. Mu Yu smiled and didn't refute anything. In his eyes, no one in the Pill Cauldron School could compare to Deadwood Daddy. The souls on this island didn't have a fixed residence. They would just find a place to rest directly, and didn't pay much attention. Perhaps it was to reminisce about their lives. Many souls would hide in their own bones. Mu Yu had to be especially careful when walking. He couldn't casually step on other people's bones, or else a few souls would float out from time to time. Disturbing other people's rest was not a polite thing to do. The souls of humans and demonic beasts would sometimes fight several times a day, and sometimes they would stop fighting for several days. Today, they only fought once and didn't continue to fight. The demon beasts seemed to have noticed that there were living people on the demon island and kept shouting at the demarcation line. However, the demarcation line was usually guarded by their respective souls. Because of the agreement, the demonic beasts did not barge in. Helion Kong and the others ignored the demonic beasts and kept asking Muyu questions. They had been trapped on an island for 5,000 years, facing those souls every day. They had no idea what was going on in the cultivation world, so they couldn't wait to hear about the current situation in the cultivation world from Muyu. Muyu did his best to tell all the souls about the current state of the cultivation realm. When Muyu mentioned the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard, all the souls were very interested in it. After all, the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard represented the true strength of the younger generation of the cultivation realm. These people were also the future hope of the cultivation realm. Muyu, are you on the list? How many from our Danding sect are on the list? Helion Kong asked impatiently. Muyu said honestly, the Danding sect has 7 on the list. I'm on the list too. 7, not bad, not bad. When I was young, there was also a Supreme Immortal Leaderboard, but we only had 5 on the list. Oh right, what's your rank? At least 70 or 80, right? Helion Kong asked. Don't expect him to be ranked high. Don't you know the flaws of the body of alchemists? Gui Yezi said calmly. Alchemists refined medicine all year round, so there were a lot of wood dregs in their bodies. These wood dregs seriously affected every alchemist's bodily functions. They were helpless against their own bodies, so every alchemist's combat strength was not strong. When competing with others in the cultivation world, they did not have any advantage. Helion Kong sighed. That's true. Muyu, it's okay. We alchemists don't fight with others. Don't be discouraged. It doesn't matter even if you're ranked 70 or 80. You're a 6th-stage alchemist, and I'm an 8th-stage alchemist. There are many people in the cultivation world who want to curry favor with us. We don't care about a Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. After saying this, Helion Kong glanced at Gui Yezi proudly. Gui Yezi snorted coldly. He had erased the Supreme Immortal mark on Muyu's hand. He did not like the threefold palace to leave a mark on him. However, he had bought a copy of the Extreme Immortal Leaderboard a year ago, and it showed that he was ranked 43rd. A year had passed, and he didn't know how the Extreme Immortal Leaderboard had changed. However, since no one had challenged him, his ranking wouldn't change. My Extreme Immortal ranking is 43rd. Muyu spread out the information on the Extreme Immortal ranking list for everyone to see. Only 43. That's not bad. Helion Kong looked at the Extreme Immortal Leaderboard and replied casually. However, he soon felt that something was wrong. Wait, what did you just say? What's your rank again? 43, Muyu said. Helion Kong's mouth gaped open. You're an alchemist of our Pill Cauldron sect, right? Helion Kong swallowed and could not help but ask. Muyu nodded. Then why do you have such a high ranking? Helion Kong asked in disbelief. Muyu rubbed his chin. I don't know either. It's just luck. Alchemists' overall battle prowess was not high. They were not talented fighters at all. However, the Extreme Immortal Leaderboard was all about killing each other. It did not care about status, and only cared about victory and defeat. Thus, this leaderboard was unfair to alchemists. However, the purpose of this leaderboard was to screen out the most talented young human prodigies to lead the cultivators in the battle against Yu Meng. If alchemists were not good enough in terms of cultivation, there was nothing to be said. After all, they were still very respected in the cultivation world. However, Gui Yezi glanced at Muyu and asked, I don't believe you. Do you think you're 43 just because you said so? Muyu spread his hands indifferently. Believe it or not, I don't have to prove anything to you. Gui Yezi's attitude towards Muyu was not as warm as the others. Instead, it was very cold. However, Muyu did not care about this. He did not like the gate of hell for a day or two. No matter if the person in front of him was a human or a ghost, Anything that was associated with the gate of hell would not be good. Impudent! Are all the juniors of the Pill Cauldron sect so disrespectful to their elders now? Gui Yezi reprimanded. If you respect me, I will respect you tenfold, Mu Yu said curtly. He really did not have to prove anything to these souls. On one hand, he could not produce conclusive evidence. He had already destroyed the extreme immortal symbol. On the other hand, these souls had been trapped on the demon island for many years and could not interfere with the current cultivation world. Whether they believed him or not was not that important. Helian Kong was not happy. He glared at Gui Yezi and said, Gui Yezi, what do you mean? You allow people from the gate of hell to be on the leaderboard, but we disciples of the Pill Cauldron sect are not allowed to be on the leaderboard? The student surpasses the master, don't you understand? Gui Yezi sneered and said, I don't trust him. I don't trust you either, Mu Yu said tit for tat. I trust him. Helian Kong did not want to seek confirmation from Mu Yu. For alchemists, it was very rare to be able to squeeze into the top 50 of the extreme immortal leaderboard. Therefore, he still stood on Mu Yu's side. In 5,000 years, no living person has ever been able to find the Sea Demon dynasty. Now, the first person to find it is a disciple of my Pill Cauldron sect. You doubt him. Do you have something against us alchemists? If you think people from the gate of hell are powerful, then why don't people from the gate of hell find us here? Helian Kong said. Gui Yezi snorted softly. That's not necessarily true. After Gui Yezi said this strange sentence, he turned into a black shadow and floated away. Mu Yu only then noticed that this guy's soul color was different from others. For example, the souls of Helian Kong and the others were white. Only Gui Yezi's soul was black. He is too self-righteous. He just can't stand others doing well. Mu Yu, don't take it to heart, Helian Kong said. Mu Yu, however, was thinking about Gui Yezi's words. That's not necessarily true. Why did Gui Yezi say that it's not necessarily true? Did he already know that people from the gate of hell would find this place? The souls on the demon island were isolated from the world of cultivation. It was impossible for them to know the situation of the outside world. Mu Yu came to the demon island first. Logically speaking, it was impossible for Gui Yezi to know that people from the gate of hell would also come here. Could it be that Gui Yezi had some way to contact people from the gate of hell? However, Mu Yu didn't think too much about this matter because he knew that people from the gate of hell would definitely come here soon. He had to think about how to deal with people from the gate of hell. Perhaps Helian Kong had been trapped on the demon island for too long, so he had countless questions to ask Mu Yu, including the current situation of the Pill Cauldron School, the situation of the 3 continents, the demon race, Yumeng, and so on. Not only him, but the other souls also wanted to ask about the situation of their respective sections. However, Helian Kong used his identity as Mu Yu's elder to dismiss the other people's questions. He specifically asked Mu Yu to answer his questions. At night, the weather was very clear. The moon pierced through the clouds and shone on the entire demon island. Helian Kong had already brought Mu Yu to a mountain peak on the demon island. From here, they could clearly see the terrain of the demon race in the distance. They could also see the demon-subduing pagoda that was now occupied by the demon race's souls. A completely green pagoda rose from the ground in the distance. This pagoda towered into the clouds, and no one knew how many floors it had. Under the illumination of the moonlight, a green light quickly enveloped the entire demon island. The green light was mixed with strange specks of starlight, like fireflies, fluttering in all directions. As far as the eye could see, the entire island was enshrouded in green light. Those specks of light drifted in all directions. The broken bones from the battle during the day gradually began to heal under the illumination of the green light. Those scattered bone fragments also flew together by themselves. Mu Yu looked at the huge pagoda in amazement. At the same time, he stretched out his hand to touch those green specks of light. The specks of light danced on his fingertips, containing endless vitality. What is the origin of these specks of light? Muyu couldn't help but ask. This kind of scene on the island was too strange, making him feel as if he was in a fantasy world. Helian Kong expected Muyu to have this kind of reaction. He smiled and said, "To be honest, we have guarded this demon-subduing pagoda for thousands of years, but we still didn't discover its mystery. We only know that it belongs to Taoist Master Xianjizi. Xianjizi was a very powerful cultivator at that time." Chapter 6:18. Could it be that you've seen this pagoda somewhere before? Muyu was already used to Xiao Shuai's half-baked memory. I'm not saying that I've seen this pagoda before. I'm saying that this restriction power doesn't belong to a formation. Instead, it belongs to a kind of spiritual power law between heaven and earth. It's very profound and I can't explain it clearly. However, I know that this spiritual power law can make the domain enveloped by this pagoda operate according to its rules. Xiao Shuai explained. Domain. Muyu raised his eyebrows. He had heard of this term before. Back then, during the formation competition, Ling Jing used the forbidden technique domain to try and kill Muyu with absolute strength. Unfortunately, the forbidden technique domain became Ling Zheng's grave in the end. You're right. It's the same as the forbidden technique domain that Ling Jing used last time. He used the formation rune stone to create a domain. Within the forbidden technique domain, spells that enter the domain are restricted. You can only fight according to his rules. Do you still remember the formation hall of the formation faction? The formation hall can also create a domain that envelopes the entire formation faction. It uses the chaos of yin and yang to perfect the formation hall and activate the domain. Its rules are to control all formation techniques within a certain range. That's why we could easily take down the people from the Talisman faction. The value of this green pagoda isn't inferior to the formation rune stone and the formation hall. The area enveloped by its green light belongs to its domain. At that time, although Muyu could control the formation hall and the formation rune stone, in reality, his cultivation was too weak. He could only unleash a portion of their power. Xiao Shuai jumped onto Muyu's shoulder and used his hand to wave the surrounding light spots. The light spots were like tangible objects that could be grasped by people. However, they could also be easily broken away. Muyu was surprised. Then in the domain created by this pagoda, what are its rules? Back then, the forbidden technique domain that Ling Zheng used restricted all formation techniques and talisman technique. Thus, this pagoda naturally had its own rules. I'm not sure either. Xiao Shuai shook his head. Helian Kong stroked his beard and said, "It's said that after one's cultivation reaches the Great Ascension stage, one will comprehend their own domain. Back then, Taoist Master Xianjizi was a Great Ascension stage cultivator. His magic treasure is naturally extraordinary. As for the domain rules that you're talking about, I think it's probably able to prevent everything from being forcefully changed." Stop everything from being forcibly changed? Helian Kong continued, "You won't believe this explanation. Muyu, you can try to cut off the mountain peak we're on. You'll understand then." Muyu hesitated for a moment. The shadow sword in his hand slashed out, and a green light appeared under the moonlight. Surging sword chi swept out, directly chopping towards the mountain peak below. Just as the shadow clone sword's sharp sword light was about to land on the mountain peak, the surrounding green dots of light suddenly rushed over and blocked all of Mu Yu's sword chi. Mu Yu's sword chi melted away like snow, leaving no trace behind. Mu Yu was extremely surprised. Those green dots of light clearly did not have any offensive power, but they were able to block his sword chi. It was indeed very strange. Helian Kong smiled and said, "The domain of this demon-subduing pagoda only appears at night. It can repair everything that's been destroyed during the day. At night, we can't even destroy bones, so we've never fought with the Yao at night. If it can repair what's been destroyed during the day, then why did your corpses rot back then? And those bones were all taken apart. Why didn't they reassemble into complete skeletons at night? Mu Yu asked in confusion. Little Commander replied, I know. It's because of time. Time is also a type of domain rule, and it's above all other domains. Time can cause corpses to rot. Even the demon subduing pagoda cannot restrict time. Have you forgotten the flowing water at the fingertips? Formation Heavenly Tao had once used a very special method to live in the flowing water at the fingertips formation. He said that time was an illusory Heavenly Tao rule, and he had only scratched the surface. However, this bit of knowledge was enough for him to live for so many years. As for why the bones did not reassemble into complete skeletons, it was actually understandable. After a corpse rotted, the bones of the various parts of the body were no longer whole, so it did not matter if they were separated. The laws of time are indeed something that surpasses all other domains. Our souls are actually bound by the laws of our respective worlds, and will soon dissipate. However, the domain of the demon subduing pagoda provides a shelter for our souls, trapping us, so we don't lose consciousness and won't dissipate, Helian Kong said. Helian Kong was only in the tribulation passing realm when he was alive. Even though it was quite impressive for an alchemist to reach the tribulation passing realm, he still could not comprehend the rules of the world, so he could not escape from the demon subduing pagoda's restraints. But it seems like the demon subduing pagoda can't help Deadwood Daddy heal the wounds on his soul, Mu Yu said disappointedly. At first, he thought the demon subduing pagoda could heal the wounds on his bones, so it should be able to heal the wounds on his soul as well. However, if this was caused by the rules of the demon subduing pagoda, then it could not heal the soul, because Deadwood Daddy's soul was not injured in the demon subduing pagoda's domain. What you said is not absolute. In my opinion, the rules of the demon subduing pagoda are not as simple as preventing things from being forcefully changed. A few hundred years ago, when the demon subduing pagoda was still in the hands of the human race, I had been studying this demon subduing pagoda. I discovered that there was an extremely powerful force in the demon subduing pagoda that can nourish souls. Perhaps it can heal your master's soul, Helian Kong said. Mu Yu's face instantly lit up with joy. Then I must go to the demon subduing pagoda. Helian Kong shook his head. Don't be happy too early. If you go to the demon subduing pagoda now, you will be blocked by the souls of the demon race. Moreover, a special power has been used on the demarcation line, so we can't force our way through. Can't force our way through. Mu Yu had indeed seen the demarcation line between the human race and the demon race today. He was still thinking that these souls were really abiding by the rules, only using their bones to fight and not crossing the line. So it was because the demarcation line stopped them. In these 5,000 years, other than fighting, we have also used the rules here to set up a series of restrictions. That demarcation line is a special power that we have researched. This demarcation line contains the soul power of the demon race and also our soul power, so neither side can force their way through that demarcation line. Otherwise, what is the point of having that demarcation line? Helian Kong paused and continued, You will see that when we fight during the day, we are all in a circle in the middle of the demarcation line. Because the demarcation line has its own restrictions, it will automatically determine the winner and the loser, thus determining the direction of movement of the demarcation line. If you lose, you will lose 1 meter of your territory. If you win, you will gain another meter of your territory. No one can force their way through, including a living person like you. Mu Yu pondered for a moment. Since the demarcation line crosses the entire island, then if I leave this island, return to the sea, and go ashore from the demon race's side, I can approach the demon subduing pagoda, right? In any case, I will also be in the demon subduing pagoda's domain. As long as I go at night, the souls of the demon race won't be able to stop me. Helion Kong shook his head. Once you are on this island, it will be difficult to leave. Mu Yu asked in surprise, could it be that I also can't leave this domain? Helion Kong nodded. The demon-subduing pagoda was set up after our human race's victory. It was set up to prevent the demon race from escaping. You can only enter, but not leave. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Mu Yu wanted to curse. After running here so eagerly, he was told that this was a place where one could enter but not leave? Then what did he come here for? It would be useless even if I said so earlier. When I saw you, you had already entered, so there was no need for me to say anything, Helion Kong said with a smile. Mu Yu opened his eyes wide. Senior, why are you so happy even though I can't leave? Do you want to find a living person to relieve your boredom so much? Mu Yu looked at Helion Kong's smile and felt that this fat old man seemed to be harboring ill intentions. Helion Kong waved his hand. How could that be? You are an outstanding disciple of my alchemy cauldron sect. Of course I would be sad that you are trapped in this place. The alchemy cauldron sect has lost an outstanding disciple. Looking at the amiable smile on Helion Kong's face, Mu Yu indeed understood the sadness of this fat old man. Alright, what do you want me to do? Say it. Mu Yu sighed. Needless to say, he knew that this fat old man was definitely planning something. Helion Kong looked hopefully at Mu Yu. I hope you can help us reclaim the territory we lost. This way we can seize the demon-subduing pagoda. You can enter the demon-subduing pagoda, and if you can climb to the highest level you can leave. Mu Yu looked at this fat old man in shock. Didn't you say that there is no way to enter the demon-subduing pagoda? Our souls can't enter, but you can think of a way to enter. Helion Kong said. Mu Yu felt a headache coming on. Why did this fat old man look like he was tricking him? Just now, he was still a decent person, but in the blink of an eye, he became extremely unreliable. Are you so sure that I can help you defeat the demons? Mu Yu asked. If the bones are tainted with the aura of a living person, the battle prowess they can display will be even stronger. You only need to use your spiritual power on the bones, and it will be more than enough to defeat the demons. Otherwise, with the bones of our human race, we won't be able to defeat the demons at all, Helion Kong said with certainty. This is the method that you have thought of to defeat the demons after 5,000 years? I guessed. You guessed? Mu Yu resisted the urge to curse. In short, there is no other way at the moment. Otherwise, you can only wait on this island until your lifespan ends and protect the demon-subduing pagoda with us, not letting the Sea Demon King escape, Helion Kong said with a smile. I am a disciple of the Alchemy Cauldron sect. Are you going to leave me in the lurch? That is why I pointed out a way for you. How do you know that you can leave by climbing to the highest level of the demon-subduing pagoda? I guessed. You guessed? Mu Yu resisted the urge to curse again. Then how many levels does the demon-subduing pagoda have? I guess it is the 99th level. Then what do you have that you don't need to guess? You can only enter the demon island, but not leave. Chapter 6:19. It was a sleepless night. The moonlight shone on the Jinyao pagoda, making it emit a green glow. The whole island was like a dream, covered with green light, peaceful and tranquil. Mu Yu was lying on a reef by the sea. He didn't believe it and wanted to try to leave the island. Sure enough, a mysterious restrictive force blocked him. The red light outside was the protective restriction set up by the Siren King, and the island was covered by the Jinyao pagoda's domain. It didn't take much effort to come in, but it was difficult to go out. Little Handsome, do you have any ideas? As long as I can go out, I don't mind singing, dancing, or even swimming naked, Mu Yu said seriously. Little Handsome shook his head. I can't do anything about the domain. Besides, I don't want to go out. Little Mo is still waiting for me outside. Don't worry about little Mo for now, okay? Having a child with little Mo is better than staying on the island for a lifetime. Moo, you didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I don't like little Mo, it's all your fault. Why did you have to come to this broken island? You put yourself in danger and made little Mo fall in love with me, Little Handsome said with annoyance. What does little Mo falling in love with you have to do with me? Who told you to seduce a seventh-order monster? I clearly told you to seduce an ordinary one. Didn't I tell you? I'm so handsome, anyone can fall in love with me, okay? The night gradually passed, and the sky revealed a white color. The green light of the Jinyao Pagoda also began to fade, and the towering Jinyao Pagoda in the distance slowly disappeared. But the Jinyao Pagoda was only invisible, its domain still existed. This island had completely become a dead island. Muyu was thinking about something. Why didn't the people of the Gate of Hell and the Yao clan come to the island after so many days? Were they lost? The Yao clan walked the holy road, so it was reasonable to say that they should be very fast. How could they not be seen? Muyu, I'll give you two choices. The first choice is to leave the island, but you must have a baby with Mo. The second choice is to be trapped on the island forever. Dragon Ting wasn't anxious at all. In any case, it wasn't his turn to solve this problem. Muyu stood up. I choose the third choice. Damn. It's not the first or second time. Even the Een corpses are obedient to singing and dancing. I don't believe we can't deal with these bones. Let's go. It's time to show our real skills. What do you think we should assemble? Xiao Shuai's attention was quickly drawn over. When he was controlling the Een corpse array, Xiao Shuai had the Een corpses do all kinds of things. What human pyramid, what radio gymnastics. This time, he also planned to show off his skills. Don't you like to play this kind of game? You decide what you want to assemble, I'll use the pattern to help you realize it. Muyu said with a face full of anger. Anyway, things had already reached this point, so there was nothing to complain about. Teaching the Yao clan a lesson was enough to vent his anger. Great. I've always wanted to assemble a transformer. Little Handsome said excitedly. What is a transformer? I don't know, it seems to be a name for a gorilla. Gorilla? Isn't little Mo's upper body also a gorilla? Damn. Don't mention little Mo. Muyu's figure flashed, and the pattern took him away, heading towards the boundary between the human and Yao clan territory. At this time, the Yao clan was already calling for a fight, and the human side had also gathered many souls. Many people were gathered together, discussing what kind of bone soldiers to assemble for the battle today. Everyone's expression was very serious. Regarding the battle, it had always been a battle of dignity between the human and Yao clan. Everyone would treat every battle seriously. When humans were alive, they were stronger than the Yao clan. Thus, after death, they would not allow themselves to lose to the Yao clan. Unfortunately, the Yao clan's bone soldiers were too strong. They were originally Yao clan with intelligence, so the Yao clan's bones were much more flexible. After so many years of experimenting, the Yao clan still lost more than they won. I say, how many rounds do you plan on losing today? Don't tell me you don't dare to accept the challenge? A Yao clan soul kept shouting. We don't dare to accept the challenge? Don't be so smug. Helian Kong said angrily. Facing the Yao clan's provocation, the humans naturally couldn't bear it. After all, in the 5,000-year war, the humans were the final victors. How could they tolerate the Yao clan's arrogance? If you dare to accept the challenge, then hurry up. Why are you dilly-dallying? Are you a woman? Haha. You humans have only reached this point. The Yao clan people were all laughing without restraint, but the humans still hadn't decided on the bone soldiers that would fight today. Let's use the scorpion tail bone soldier. Yesterday we lost by assembling a pair of wings. Today we'll assemble a tail. Bo Hong suggested. The scorpion tail is useless against them. Learn their moves and use claws. Helian Kong said. Our soul soldiers haven't recovered in the past 2 days. Let's just rest for 2 days. Mu Mingfei said with a frown. Helian Kong shook his head. No, if we don't accept the challenge, we'll lose our territory again. The Yao clan will become more and more arrogant. The dividing line was set with powerful soul power. Once one side sent out a bone soldier, if the other side didn't accept the challenge before the sky turned dark, the dividing line would automatically judge them as the loser. No need to rest, let me do it. Mu Yu walked over with large strides. He saw a group of souls fiddling with all kinds of hand and leg bones. There were also a few cultivators who were raising a few hand claws. Their expressions were quite grim. Every soul was quite serious about this kind of battle, but Mu Yu always felt that this scene was too strange. All souls had played with their own bones for 5,000 years and were already used to it. However, Mu Yu always felt like laughing. Ignorant child, what ability do you have? Gui Yezi snorted coldly. Hey, Gui Yezi, he's the only living person. Use your spiritual power to control the bone soldiers. Only then will we have a chance of winning. Helian Kong said with dissatisfaction. Gui Yezi glanced coldly at Mu Yu. I don't want to hand over the human race's territorial disputes to someone who doesn't respect his elders. The more Mu Yu looked at Gui Yezi, the more disgusted he felt. This guy was purely the type who wanted to be scolded. His self-righteous appearance made it seem like others owed him a lot of money. Even if they owed him money, he wouldn't be able to spend a single soul. So in your eyes, the honor of the human race is more important than your personal opinion? No wonder you lost. It would be strange if an arrogant guy like you could win. Mu Yu mocked. Do you want to die? Gui Yezi's hand suddenly released a strong wave of soul power, but it was blocked by Helian Kong. Gui Yezi, he's a disciple of my Danding sect. It's not up to you to teach my junior a lesson. Helian Kong's body also emitted a strong wave of soul power. Although he was an alchemist, his cultivation was also at the tribulation passing realm. After death, everyone was a pure soul, so there wasn't much of a difference in strength. The two of you calm down. You can't hurt each other, so why get angry? Junior Mu Yu, you've just arrived, so you might not be familiar with the bone soldiers. We've studied them for 5,000 years and have a complete system on how to assemble bone soldiers. You must learn it before you fight, Bo Hong said. Mu Yu found it funny. Assembling bones and forming a system, what a weirdo! He shook his head. Let me try. Anyway, you've already lost so many battles, so it doesn't matter if I win. What do you mean it doesn't matter if you win? You lost once, so we have to win again to take back our territory. Don't you understand? Gui Yezi said coldly. If you think so, then just be a coward and stop fighting forever. That way, we won't lose even a meter of our territory. Isn't that great? Mu Yu mocked. Stop fighting? Stop fighting is the most shameful thing to do. Gui Yezi looked at Mu Yu with disgust. Mu Yu looked at Gui Yezi with disgust as well. Helian Kong thought for a moment and said, I want Mu Yu to try. I object, Gui Yezi said without hesitation. Gui Yezi, it's my turn to command the bone soldiers today. I have the final say. Helian Kong snorted. Gui Yezi stared at Helian Kong. According to the rules, the four of them usually took turns to assemble the bone soldiers, so he couldn't refute. Then what if he loses? Gui Yezi asked disdainfully. What if I win? Mu Yu asked back. It's your honor if you win. Gui Yezi replied without hesitation. Since it's my honor if I win, then it's no big deal if I lose. Haven't you lost before? Mu Yu asked. At least I've never lost for nothing. I've done my best in every battle. A loss is a loss, and you can still find such a dignified reason. How impressive! Mu Yu smiled disdainfully. At least enough. Give Mu Yu 3 chances. If he loses, then I'll give you my soul tool, okay? Helian Kong said solemnly. Okay, it's a deal. Gui Yezi revealed a strange smile, then coldly glanced at Mu Yu, turned around and floated away. Mu Yu frowned slightly and asked, "What's a soul tool?" Helian Kong gestured to Mu Yu, then called Mu Yu to the side and said sincerely, "Soul tools are the vessels that our souls normally reside in. Usually it's a bone. My soul tool is my old leg bone, because it's nourished by the soul all year round, and with the power of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, the soul tool has powerful soul power that can make the soul even stronger." After a pause, Helian Kong continued, "Every joint on a bone soldier is mainly controlled by a soul tool. Using a soul tool to control a bone soldier can make it more agile. Gui Yezi has always been thinking about my soul tool because I have a special way of nourishing it." "Then what will happen if you don't have a soul tool?" Mu Yu asked. Helian Kong sighed. "Without a soul tool, I'll have to find another one. But a new soul tool will make my soul very uncomfortable, and it will even cause my soul power to decline. When that time comes, I won't be able to become one of the 4 leaders of the human race. If a soul tool is so important, then you're using it as a wager?" Mu Yu asked in astonishment. "You're a junior of my pill cauldron school. Who else can I trust if not you?" Helian Kong patted Mu Yu's shoulder. Chapter 620. Helian Kong generously handed over a leg bone suffused with a white luster to Mu Yu, and said, "I'll lend this to you first. This is my precious leg bone, a rather powerful soul tool. Gui Yezi has always wanted to borrow my soul tool to fight, but I've always refused." Mu Yu received Helian Kong's skull bone, and kept feeling that something was a bit off. He was holding the other party's leg bone in his hand, and the other party's face was still full of seriousness. This kind of scene was too strange. According to Helian Kong, he was a powerful Tier 8 alchemist when he was alive. The higher the cultivation of a person, the harder their bones would become under the encirclement of powerful spirit energy. Because the bones of alchemists refined all kinds of rare herbs all year round, their bones were harder than other people's. Thus, after Helian Kong used them as soul tools, their power was also very powerful. This was also the reason why Gui Yezi had always coveted Helian Kong's soul tool. Mu Yu swallowed a mouthful of saliva, waved the leg bone in his hand and asked, "Senior, if I accidentally break your leg, what should I do?" "Then you be careful. The legs of an elderly person cannot be casually broken," Helian Kong said solemnly. Mu Yu felt more and more strange. Using Helian Kong's leg bone to fight was really too strange. However, he also felt a different aura from Helian Kong's leg bone. This leg bone looked like a piece of jade, and it was very cold when held in his hand. It also contained a trace of powerful fluctuation that made one's heart palpitate endlessly. Mu Yu was sure that if this thing was placed in the cultivation world, it would definitely be a precious magic treasure. As long as it was slightly refined, it would display a terrifying combat strength, and it would probably cause many cultivators to fight over it. Every joint on a bone battle soldier's body is made of soul tools, while the other parts are ordinary bones. Thus, a bone battle soldier requires several hundred souls to coordinate together. Normally, the 4 of us take turns to fight and act as the chief commander of the bone battle soldier, displaying the bone battle soldier's combat strength to the extreme. Helian Kong started to introduce the situation of the bone battle soldier to Mu Yu, and basically told Mu Yu about his usual combat experience. He also roughly explained the power of the demon race's bone battle soldier so that Mu Yu could have a rough idea. The bone battle soldier was not directly controlled by a single person, but every soul listened to the chief commander's orders and acted accordingly. This had very high requirements for the chief commander, and at the same time, they had to analyze the damage of each body's joints at the same time to make timely adjustments. However, every soul's reaction time was different, so the bone battle soldier would appear very clumsy. Once a soul made a mistake, it would cause the entire bone battle soldier to die. Thus, the usual training of the bone battle soldier was very strict. Helion Kong, the bone battle soldier's ability to control over the bone battle soldiers, but he was a formation master. The most powerful masters was a formation master. Was to a formation masters a master was master. A formation master master was master. As long as he used the formation technique on the bone battle soldier and used the formation to control the movement of every part of the bone battle soldier, he would not need the soul to control the joint. He could do it himself, and it would appear more agile. Let's go, I'll bring you to familiarize you with my subordinates, Helion Kong said. The souls on the island were divided into 4 teams, and each of them followed Helion Kong's group to train. Everyone had their own training method. Helion Kong was very familiar with his subordinates, so they could coordinate the movements of the bone battle soldier. Every soul knew how to control the movement of the bone battle soldier during battle. Muyu shook his head. No need, I only need everyone's soul weapons. I don't need to borrow any souls. If you don't borrow souls, how are you going to control the soul weapons? Helion Kong frowned. Lines of formation patterns appeared on Mu Yu's hand, and they danced around his body. I'm not only an alchemist, I'm also a formation master. Formation master? I know that there are also people in our Danding sect who study formation techniques, but how is your formation technique? Helion Kong asked in surprise. It should be considered not bad, right? Mu Yu felt that modesty was a kind of good virtue. Not bad. But it's not the answer I want. There's not a single formation master's soul on this island, but I know one thing. If you haven't reached the standard of an innate formation master, then it'll be very difficult to control an entire bone battle soldier, Helion Kong said. Mu Yu touched his forehead. He was the sect master of the formation glyph sect, so he should be more powerful than an innate formation master, right? In any case, just tell them to send the soul weapons and other bones to me first. I'll think about it for a while. You guys have already fought for so many years, a few more hours won't make a difference, Mu Yu said confidently. Helion Kong looked suspiciously at Mu Yu, but when he thought about how he had already used Mu Yu as a wager, he could only helplessly transfer a portion of his subordinates over. Very soon, a small mountain of bones piled up in front of Mu Yu. Human bones, hand bones, leg bones, everything that could be expected was there. To be honest, when Mu Yu looked at those piled up bones, he felt as if he was blaspheming his seniors. However, when he thought about how the seniors didn't mind using these bones to fight, he didn't need to feel any psychological burden, so he also felt relieved. Little Shuai, are you done with your draft? What kind of bone battle soldier do you want to assemble? Mu Yu asked. It's done, it's done. Little Shuai excitedly passed a piece of paper to Mu Yu. This piece of paper was originally used to wrap chicken drumsticks, but Little Shuai took a branch and dipped it in the juice of a red berry, and drew its bone battle soldier on it. Mu Yu looked at the densely packed diagram and couldn't help but praise Little Shuai. This guy really did have talent. This guy was usually muddle-headed, but when it came to things to eat and play, he was simply too awesome. At this moment, there were 4 drawings of different shapes drawn on the paper. The various shapes were marked on the paper, and there were also annotations about what the things were used for and how they operated. Although the sketches were very simple, it was already enough in such a short amount of time. Mu Yu naturally couldn't understand Little Shuai's masterpiece. If he wanted to listen to Little Shuai explain every part, who knew how long it would take? Thus, he directly used the wind-wind-heart linking formation and connected Little Shuai's thoughts with his own. At this moment, Mu Yu also understood Little Shuai's plan. Little Shuai usually learned formation skills from Muyu, so he knew what formation skills were used in each part of the Bone Battle Soldier. In terms of controlling the Bone Battle Soldier, he was even smarter than Muyu. Draw a deafening thunder snake shadow here. Let's see if it can electrocute a demon to death. You can draw a Qianjun formation on the arm and a water ridge transfer formation on the chest for defense. Oh right, we can use the latent shadow puppet formation to firmly attach all the bones so that we can change the shape of the skeleton soldiers at any time. When the time comes, just follow my method and you will definitely be invincible. Little Shuai explained his Bone Battle Soldier endlessly. He even named it Transformer. He specially made 2 forms for Transformer. With the Wind Heart linking formation, Muyu easily understood Little Shuai's meaning. Little Shuai was completely treating the Bone Battle Soldier as a dangerous doll covered in formations. With the help of the formations, the Bone Battle Soldier's combat ability could be raised to the highest level. Little Shuai was very happy with his design, but all of this was set up by Muyu. He had to calculate the approximate amount of spiritual power used by the Bone Battle Soldier. He didn't want to be defeated after just 2 moves. I can't set up the wind shadow on the hand. I have to set it up on the leg because the wind shadow will cause the place where it is used to suffer a great amount of pressure. When the time comes, I'm worried that the other soul tools won't be able to withstand it. However, Senior Helion Kong's leg bone should be able to do it. Also, I need to set up the wind string formation, just in case. At the same time, I also want to add other forms. Muyu began to continuously modify Little Shuai's dangerous doll, Transformer. He had even more brilliant ideas to perfect Little Shuai's Transformer. Dragonvine also wanted to join in, but Muyu was worried that Dragonvine's appearance would cause the human souls to be hostile, so he didn't let Dragonvine join in. All the souls solemnly gathered at the side and watched Muyu and Little Shuai discuss fervently around a blueprint. However, none of the souls present were formation masters. Even the souls who had learned some formation techniques in their lives couldn't understand the conversation between Muyu and Little Shuai. Helion Kong, do you really believe in Muyu? Muming Fei couldn't help but float to Helion Kong's side and ask. Helion Kong spread out his hands. It's becoming more and more difficult for us humans Bone Battle Soldiers to defeat the Goblin race's Bone Battle Soldiers. Our Bone Battle Soldiers only have a few sets of assembly methods, but the Goblin race's Bone Battle Soldiers are too malleable. Muyu is the only living person. His spiritual power can allow the bones to display even more power. Maybe he can catch the Goblin race's Bone Battle Soldiers off guard and defeat them. But why do I feel that it's not reliable? He doesn't use a single soul weapon, so how can he control the soul weapon as he pleases? Muming Fei asked. Soul weapons are only used for coordination in battle. Muyu has learned formation techniques, so he should know how to use formation techniques to replace soul weapons. It's not easy for a junior of my Pill Cauldron sect to come, so of course I have to believe him. Besides, we've already lost so many matches, so it doesn't matter if Muyu loses a few matches. It's not bad to let Muyu gain some experience. Helion Kong said proudly. I'm afraid you don't just want to gain some experience. I know what you're planning. You're planning to use him to do that thing. Muming Fei sighed. Helion Kong's expression darkened. He glanced at Muyu and nodded slightly. He didn't know Muyu's strength, but he used a precious soul weapon as a wager. He trusted Muyu so unconditionally. It would be strange if there wasn't something strange about it. Muming Fei didn't say anything else. Muyu also knew that Helion Kong wasn't so simple. However, he had come to the Demon Island without anyone to rely on. The Ghost Realm Child and the people from the Gate of Hell had yet to arrive made him have no choice but to be careful. Even if Helion Kong had some unspeakable plan for Muyu, Muyu still had to cater to it. Muyu's hands had already begun to draw formation patterns. Blue formation patterns swept out from his hands and instantly covered all the bones. Then, the formation patterns surged and the mountain-like bones all floated in the air under the effect of the formation patterns. Little Commander, let's get to work. The formation patterns in Mu Yu's hands controlled the movement of the bones in a rhythmic manner. Chapter 6:21. The latent shadow puppet formation technique was a formation technique that was specially used to control objects. It could allow the objects covered by the formation to move according to the requirement. Mu Yu was no stranger to this formation technique. Back when Mu Yu had just arrived at the Array faction to challenge the 8 gates, when he tried the 3rd hexagram, there were scattered stars in the 3rd hexagram. Mu Yu used his thoughts to control the stars to form different shapes to battle with the other party's stars. This formation technique was executed based on the latent shadow puppet formation technique. Mu Yu used the latent shadow puppet formation technique on the bones and could easily control the bones to form the shape he wanted. The bones floating in midair were guided by thin formation patterns, just like the leads of a puppet. The only difference was that these formation patterns were extremely orderly. Under Mu Yu's control, they wouldn't tangle together. The bones that filled the sky started to assemble in an orderly manner according to Little Shuai's expectations. Very quickly, they formed a 5-meter-tall bone battle soldier. This bone battle soldier was rather strange. Its head was rather small and was obviously not symmetrical with its body. Its body was also cylindrical, as if a thick tree trunk had grown hands and feet. It looked very strange. When Mu Yu's bone battle soldier appeared, all the souls, including Helion Kong, were stunned. Wasn't this F*King too ugly? Helion Kong floated to Mu Yu's side and sized up the 5-meter-tall bone battle soldier. He said with a face full of suspicion, "Mu Yu, don't tell me that you guys planned for so long just to create such an ugly bone battle soldier?" "Yes, is there anything wrong?" Mu Yu didn't care about other people's opinions at all. Helion Kong couldn't bear to attack Mu Yu's self-confidence, but he still kindly reminded him, "Normal bone battle soldiers are about 10 meters tall. Yours is only 5 meters tall. In front of others, it's like a dwarf. Do you want to consider making it taller? It's okay, we have plenty of bones. Short ones are more flexible. I think a height of 5 meters is enough." Mu Yu didn't really care. What was important wasn't the height, but the practicality. "That's true, but come and take a look at the demon race's bone battle soldiers." Helion Kong pointed helplessly at the demon race's bone battle soldiers in the distance. The skeleton warriors that the other party had sent out today were at least 15 meters tall and had a pair of gigantic bone wings. At the same time, they also had 2 gigantic, sharp bone tails on their back. The sharp claws on their palms were 1 meter long. Their terrifying tearing ability was definitely no joke. Looking at Mu Yu's pitiful and small figure, he felt that he would be finished off with just 1 claw. The demon race's bone warriors were powerful and domineering, while Mu Yu's bone warriors were shabby. The difference was like heaven and earth. The skeletons of the demon race are relatively large, so their bone warriors are mostly very tall. In order to be able to fight against them, we have to make our skeletons similar to theirs, Helion Kong explained. Mu Yu smiled and said, "Senior, you've already lent me your leg bone, so don't worry. I won't disappoint you." Helion Kong hesitated for a moment, then said helplessly, "All right then. You can take the first round as experiencing the power of the demon race's bone battle soldiers. It's okay if you lose. However, you have to be careful. As the overall commander, you also have to be on the battlefield. Also, let me remind you that your cultivation is not high enough, so you can't defeat the demon race's bone battle soldiers with your spiritual power. This is because the skeletons of the demon race's bone battle soldiers are at least at the body integration stage, so you can only rely on our soul tools to fight against them." Mu Yu already knew this. If he could defeat the bone battle soldiers directly, he wouldn't need to rely on the soul tools of his soul tools to fight. He could just take out the Mu Ling and wave it a few times. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Assembling such an ugly bone battle soldier, are you here to be funny? Gui Yezi said coldly from the side. I don't see you laughing. Mu Yu shrugged. That's because this isn't a laughing matter. This is a battle between the human race and the demon race's territory, and you sent out such a rotten bone battle soldier? Gui Yezi's face was full of sarcasm. Although Helian Kong didn't think highly of Mu Yu, he still spoke up to defend him. Gui Yezi, we've already placed our bet. What kind of bone battle soldier Mu Yu uses has nothing to do with you, right? Gui Yezi glanced coldly at Helian Kong, a mocking smile appearing on his face. It looks like you can't wait to give me your soul tool. I don't think so. Mu Yu couldn't be bothered to say anything more to Gui Yezi, and directly walked toward the demarcation line. There was a circular battlefield at the border of the demarcation line. This battlefield was about 100 meters in diameter, and it was enough for the bone battle soldiers to show off their strength. The battlefield spanned across the demarcation line, and it was also within the demarcation line's range of power. Once one entered, they would only be able to bring their remains out if they lost. Mu Yu had just walked onto the battlefield with the bone battle soldier when he was greeted with a wave of roaring laughter from the demonic beast. To be honest, the 5-meter-tall bone battle soldier wasn't considered short. However, in front of the demonic beast's 15-meter-tall bone battle soldier, it indeed looked like a little kid. Especially with its round body, it looked especially comical, as if it would be turned to mush with a single step. I didn't think that I would actually see a living person after several thousand years. How rare. However, is a junior like you planning to amuse us the moment you arrive? Ha! A demonic beast with large bull horns on his head looked down at Mu Yu in the air with an overbearing air. This guy was known as the Bull Demon King, and he was one of the commanders of the demonic beast's bone battle soldiers. The demonic beast's degree of control over their bone battle soldiers was far greater than that of the human race. However, in the past, when the human race fought, the bone battle soldiers that they sent out were at least relatively powerful in terms of aura. However, when he saw this tiny thing today, he really felt that it was extremely laughable. It's too tall, too clumsy. Mu Yu stroked his bone battle soldier, his expression calm and unhurried. Kid, I'll properly teach you how to use the bone battle soldier today. The Bull Demon King laughed loudly as he floated back into the bone battle soldier's skull. Mu Yu patted his bone battle soldier, and the bone battle soldier suddenly started to move. All the bones surged and formed a chair. Mu Yu leisurely jumped onto it. At this moment, Little Commander was sitting in the pile of bones above him. Let's properly teach this stupid bull a lesson. Little Commander was full of fighting spirit. He didn't see this battle as a battle of honor or territory at all. He was purely playing around. Mu Yu smiled slightly, and a trace of ridicule appeared in his eyes. Those who underestimated him would usually end up in a miserable state. The bone battle soldier of the demonic beasts blotted out the sky. A pair of huge bone wings flapped in the air. Although these bone wings didn't seem to be able to fly, they looked much more handsome. Looking at Mu Yu's skinny and weak bone battle soldier, it was simply unbearable to look at. Kid, you'd better obediently accept your death. The Bull Demon King laughed maniacally. The sharp bone tail behind him was like a flexible whip. With a boom in the air, it directly attacked Mu Yu's dwarf. Helian Kong looked at the Bull Demon King's insufferably arrogant bone tail and sighed in his heart. He knew that with Mu Yu's ability, he probably wouldn't be able to withstand this whip. Not only him, but all the human spirits shook their heads helplessly. They looked at Helian Kong with resentment. Clearly, Helian Kong had chosen to blindly believe in Mu Yu. He had completely handed over the 1-meter territory of the human race directly. The human spirits covered their faces and sighed. This battle was completely a gift of warmth. Gui Yezi's lips curled into a mocking smile. If he could obtain Helion Kong's soul tool, it wouldn't be a big deal even if the human race lost 3 battles. Just when everyone thought that Mu Yu would be finished off by the bone battle soldier of the demonic beasts, Mu Yu's bone battle soldier moved at this moment. Moreover, the way it moved was very strange, beyond everyone's imagination. Mu Yu's bone battle soldier actually extended a pair of wings from its body. That's right. It was just a pair of simple bone wings. It was completely not as domineering as the demonic beast. However, what everyone didn't expect was that the bone wings were actually filled with array patterns. It was precisely these array patterns that allowed the wings to create buoyancy with the air, allowing it to directly fly. The bone wings on the back of Mu Yu's bone battle soldier flapped nimbly, carrying the bone battle soldier into the sky. Its nimble body tapped on the demonic beast's bone battle soldier's tailbone, and it had already circled behind the demonic beast's bone battle soldier. Suddenly, powerful array patterns flashed in its hands again. A terrifying force traveled from the bone battle soldier's arm, ruthlessly smashing into the opponent's tail. Gotcha! There was a loud sound as Mu Yu's bone battle soldier tore off the demonic beast's bone battle soldier's tail. Both bone battle soldiers were made up of powerful soul armaments, so this was no longer a competition of Mu Yu's cultivation. Instead, it was a competition of agility and strength. Furthermore, Mu Yu's bone battle soldier's timing was very precise. The demonic beast's bone battle soldier seemed to be quite strong, but the demonic beast's bone battle soldier's third tailbone was actually its fatal weakness. Big stupid cow, die! Xiao Shuai shouted excitedly. He was actually the one controlling the bone battle soldier, and Mu Yu was only there to help him coordinate the array patterns. Even the demonic beast's bone battle soldier's weakness was discovered by Xiao Shuai himself. How is this possible? Everyone was stunned. None of them thought that Mu Yu's bone battle soldier would be as nimble as a loach. In a single move, it tore off the demonic beast's bone battle soldier's tail. Damn! It seems that I've underestimated you. How dare you tear off the tail of my divine ox bone battle soldier? You're courting death. The bull demon king angrily tried to snatch the tail back, but Xiao Shuai had already crushed the demonic beast's bone battle soldier's soul armament. Although the demonic beast's bone battle soldier could only be broken by a body integration stage cultivator, the bones of Mu Yu's bone battle soldier were also very tough. They were not weaker than the demonic beast's bone battle soldier. Xiao Shuai knew exactly where to attack and break the demonic beast's bone battle soldier. Divine Ox Bone Battle Soldier? Let me tell you, my bone battle soldier is called Transformer. Xiao Shuai laughed loudly. When the Divine Ox Bone Battle Soldier's sharp claws came down, Transformer had already jumped far away. At the same time, all the bones in its body surged again, and in the blink of an eye, it had turned into Xiao Shuai's appearance. Mu Yu was a little embarrassed. At first, he refused to let the bone battle soldier turn into Xiao Shuai's appearance, but Xiao Shuai insisted on it. He couldn't change his mind, so he could only reluctantly agree. Therefore, when a 5 to 6 meter tall squirrel suddenly appeared on the battlefield, all the souls were startled, especially when the squirrel's tail was quite big, and it was constantly swaying. How can it transform so quickly? Helion Kong looked at the big pine tree in shock. Although the bone battle soldier would also change its shape quickly, it had completely changed from an ugly dwarf to a small squirrel. This was already a huge change. Normal soul soldiers wouldn't be able to coordinate it at all. Little Mouse. The Bull Demon King was also stunned. Little Mouse, your sister, I'm called Xiao Shuai. Xiao is Xiao from Xiao Shuai, and Shuai is Shuai from Xiao Shuai. Xiao Shuai scolded in dissatisfaction. Chapter 622. The adamantine skeleton warrior's bone tail was wrapped in runes as it swung about violently. Drawing in the surrounding spiritual energy, the adamantine skeleton warrior created a hurricane around the battlefield. Even though there were gaps in the adamantine skeleton warrior's wings, it was still too big. Unable to stand firm against Xiao Shuai's hurricane of spiritual energy, the adamantine skeleton warrior was forced to take several steps back. Xiao Shuai's tail wasn't limited to that. A long bone chain drilled out from the adamantine skeleton warrior's tail. Before the adamantine skeleton warrior could steady itself, the bone chain had already passed through the gaps in its wings and firmly locked onto them. "I'll take you for a spin in the sky," Xiao Shuai cried out happily. Another pair of bone wings sprouted out from the adamantine skeleton warrior's back. The runes on the bone wings trembled violently and brought the adamantine skeleton warrior up into the sky. In front of the 15-meter-tall adamantine skeleton warrior, Xiao Shuai's size was insignificant. But with the help of the runes, not only was the adamantine skeleton warrior able to fly, but it was also able to lift the adamantine skeleton warrior up. "Damn! Let go of it!" The Ox King roared angrily. Controlling the claws in his hands, he tried to grab at Xiao Shuai. But Xiao Shuai's bone chain was far longer than the adamantine skeleton warrior's claws. Helpless, the Ox King could only try to tear at Xiao Shuai's bone chain in an attempt to break it. "Don't pull, stupid cow. I'll let go." Little Commander immediately retracted his bone chain. At this time, he had already brought the divine ox bone warrior more than 100 meters into the air. Whoosh! The adamantine skeleton warrior fell from the sky. Its wings flapped non-stop, but without the support of Mu Yu's runes, the adamantine skeleton warrior was unable to fly. Thus, the adamantine skeleton warrior slammed into the ground. Boom! The adamantine skeleton warrior smashed a crater into the ground. Many of its bones were broken, but it was still a powerful soul armament. Falling from such a height was only enough to make it dizzy, but not enough to break it apart. However, little Shuai laughed happily again. Suddenly, a huge hammer made of bones appeared in his hand. The huge hammer was covered in green runes. "Big stupid cow, I'll use a small hammer to hit you." Xiao Shuai dived down once more. Mu Yu had engraved a Qianjun formation onto the bone hammer, giving it a frightening amount of strength. With the addition of a soul armament, the hammer was not to be underestimated. Even though the Bull Demon King had been through hundreds of battles, he had never been thrown down from the sky like a chick. So at this moment, he was very angry in his heart. Looking at the incoming bone hammer, he didn't dare to be careless. He stretched out two hands from behind his back and supported his body. At the critical moment, he moved horizontally. However, the powerful force of the formation pattern still smashed the divine ox bone warrior into the boundary of the battlefield, causing it to fall down. Once the skeletal warriors entered the battlefield, they would not be able to leave unless they were completely destroyed. Big stupid cow is quite nimble. Little Commander controlled the Vajra bone warrior to do a flip in the air and nimbly landed on the ground. The souls of the human race were already boiling. How could they have imagined that the dwarf bone warrior that everyone looked down on would suddenly beat the insufferably arrogant divine ox bone warrior of the demon race to the point where it couldn't even fight back? Usually, when the skeletal warriors of both sides fought, most of them relied on brute force to tangle with each other and tear each other apart. Destroying the opponent's arms and tails was an advantage, so there was no need to use such fancy technique. However, the Vajra bone warrior that Xiao Shuai controlled was far more nimble than anyone could imagine. It was no longer a clumsy skeletal warrior. It was as if it had been given a life of its own. "I told you that my eyes wouldn't be wrong." Helian Kong was pleasantly surprised as he looked at the nimble skeletal warrior. The fact that the skeletal warrior could fly had already exceeded their expectations. This was really too inconceivable. Gui Yezi's expression was very ugly. He clearly didn't expect the Vajra Bone Warrior to have such powerful battle strength. The battle isn't over yet. The divine Ox Bone Warrior is not to be trifled with. Gui Yezi snorted. Why does it sound like you can't wait for our human skeletal warrior to lose? Helion Kong was very dissatisfied with Gui Yezi's mockery and ridicule. I'm just reminding you not to underestimate your opponent. Gui Yezi was naturally very displeased to be accused of such a thing. However, he really didn't want the Vajra Bone Warrior to win. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to obtain Helion Kong's soul tool. If he couldn't obtain Helion Kong's soul tool, then, when Gui Yezi thought of this, a trace of ruthlessness flashed through his eyes. He naturally didn't want to obtain Helion Kong's soul tool just to defeat the Yao race. He had other plans. He definitely couldn't let this junior from the Pill Cauldron school ruin his plans. Xiao Shuai, don't use the Qianjun formation anymore. It's very tiring, Mu Yu said. Xiao Shuai was having fun, but Mu Yu was the one doing the work throughout the entire process. The foundation of the formation had chaotic yin and yang, so there was no need to worry. However, using the formation required a lot of spiritual power, not to mention that he had just used up a lot of spiritual power to lift the 15-meter-tall skeletal warrior into the air. It would be fine if he fell to his opponent's death, but if he didn't fall to his death, then he couldn't casually use the formation again. Otherwise, he would lose his own life. I know, I'll be careful from now on, Xiao Shuai said as he rubbed his palms together. However, at this moment, a tailbone suddenly shot out from the ground and directly wrapped around the Vajra Bone Warrior's thigh. A huge force came from the Vajra Bone Warrior's leg and lifted it up. Bang! The Vajra Bone Warrior was ruthlessly smashed to the ground. Then, the Divine Ox Bone Warrior was like a whip, smashing the Vajra Bone Warrior left and right. F***ck. Stupid ox actually dared to sneak attack me. Xiao Shuai shouted angrily. Mu Yu gritted his teeth. He had to use all his strength to maintain the latent shadow puppet formation to prevent any bones in his body from breaking. Xiao Shuai realized that he couldn't break free from the opponent's tailbone. This time, the opponent's tailbone was very well prepared and didn't leave any loopholes. However, Xiao Shuai had endless ideas when it came to playing this kind of game. He directly spread out the leg that was caught, and every piece of bone that was spread out was guided by the fine formation patterns. Using another method, he broke free from the opponent's tailbone and reassembled them. Mu Yu finally stabilized the Vajra Bone Warrior. The two skeletal warriors looked at each other in the distance. Do you really think I'm that easy to defeat? The Bull Demon King fiercely pounced at the Vajra Bone Warrior again. His huge fist created a gust of wind in the air and ruthlessly smashed into the Vajra Bone Warrior's body with a surge of soul power. Mu Yu's expression changed. After the Vajra Bone Warrior received the Divine Ox Bone Warrior's punch, it faintly showed signs of collapsing. The formation patterns on its body also began to become chaotic. Its soul power. Mu Yu forgot one thing. Normally, skeletal warriors were controlled by the soul. The soul could use soul power to strengthen the skeletal warrior's strength. However, Mu Yu's skeletal warrior didn't have any soul power. Therefore, under this attack, it was clearly at a disadvantage. He was now regretting not letting the soul soldier participate in the battle. If the human soul joined, it would at least provide Mu Yu with some soul power. Xiao Shuai, we can't take his soul power head-on, Mu Yu shouted in a deep voice. Xiao Shuai also realized how powerful the opponent's soul power was. In the beginning of the battle, the Vajra Bone Warrior was extremely fast and didn't give the opponent any chance to react. Therefore, the opponent didn't have the chance to use his soul power. However, now that the opponent had recovered, they were in big trouble. Soul power, it's over. We can't dissolve their soul power. Xiao Shuai scratched his head. Mu Ling was originally the nemesis of these souls. However, because of the powerful restriction on the Demon Island, Mu Ling couldn't hurt these souls. Therefore, Mu Ling couldn't absorb their soul power. This was troublesome. Boom! The divine ox bone warrior punched again, but Xiao Shuai dodged in time. The opponent's fist smashed the ground open. However, at this moment, a powerful soul power suddenly erupted from Helian Kong's soul tool and instantly merged with Mu Yu's formation patterns. Mu Yu was stunned. Helian Kong's leg bone actually had this kind of ability? That soul power seemed to have been suppressed for a long time and had been looking for an outlet. At this moment, Mu Yu was surprised to find that he could use the formation patterns to guide this powerful soul power. This kind of soul power was different from the soul power of the third palace. This kind of soul power was purer and wasn't contaminated with other impurities. The soul power of the third palace seemed to have been extracted and didn't have the smooth and natural feeling. Mu Yu didn't think too much. He immediately controlled the powerful soul power emitted from the leg bone and directly merged the soul power into his formation patterns. Xiao Shuai! Mu Yu shouted. Got it. Big stupid ox, have a taste of my Xiao Shuai's wind god leg. Xiao Shuai began to dance with joy as he laughed heartily. A powerful array pattern suddenly emerged from the bone soldier's leg bone. The array pattern fused with sharp soul force. After that, the adamantine bone soldier turned into a shadow as it kicked the divine ox bone soldier at an extremely terrifying speed. Poochie! With a soft sound, the Vajra bone warrior's right leg directly kicked the divine ox bone warrior's chest. At the same time, many barbs suddenly extended from the Vajra bone warrior's right leg and firmly hooked the divine ox bone warrior's chest. Deafening thunder snake swift shadow. Mu Yu's hands were already pinching the array technique. The array pattern was guided by his fingertips and transmitted to his right leg. Then, it fused with his soul power. Blue snake shadows scuttled around the bones of the divine ox bone warrior, directly electrocuting the souls of some of the monster race people. Xiao Shuai seized the opportunity. His tail turned into countless bone chains and locked onto the divine ox bone warrior's weak joint. Crash! The 15-meter-tall divine ox bone warrior actually turned into a pile of broken bones in an instant. Did I really win? Chapter 623. Haha! I told you my transformers are invincible! Little Shuai excitedly controlled the bone battle soldier to do a 720 somersault in the air. Damn it, next time you do the work, I'll control the bone battle soldier. Mu Yu watched as the demarcation line automatically moved 1 meter towards the Yao race. Only then did he control the bone battle soldier to walk out of the battlefield and jump off. Good lad, I didn't expect you to have such a move. Helian Kong had already floated over excitedly and slapped Mu Yu's shoulder again. Mu Yu felt his shoulder being hit by a piece of ice again. Senior, I'll return your leg bone to you. I didn't break your leg. Thank goodness, thank goodness, Mu Yu said with a smile. Helian Kong didn't take back his soul tool. Instead, he asked mysteriously, how is it? Is my soul tool useful? It's useful. To be honest, it's all thanks to the soul power in your soul tool. Mu Yu nodded. If it's useful, then I'll let you use it first. You'll just be responsible for helping us win a few more rounds. Helian Kong stroked his beard and said generously. Mu Yu rolled his eyes. Senior, let me ask you. If we want to reach the demon subduing pagoda, how many more rounds do we need to win? Let me calculate. This place is about 60 kilometers away from the demon subduing pagoda. That's not too far, right? Anyway, with your cultivation, you can fly there in the blink of an eye. The demarcation line moves 1 meter for every round you win, so you need to win 60,000 kilometers. According to the situation where we can win 2 rounds a day without losing, we'll be able to win back the demon subduing pagoda's territory in 80 years. Helian Kong said casually. Mu Yu directly spat out a mouthful of blood. 80 years? You want me to stay on the island for 80 years? Mu Yu was about to go crazy. We've been trapped for 5,000 years, and you've only been trapped for 80 years. That's not too bad. Helian Kong felt that Mu Yu was making a fuss over nothing. Mu Yu knocked on his head. He felt a slight headache. Then are there any shortcuts that we can take? For example, the kind where you can walk 10 kilometers if you win a match? Mu Yu asked helplessly. Helian Kong revealed a strange smile. Of course there is. Mu Yu's heart skipped a beat, because looking at Helian Kong's smile, he felt as if the latter had purposely set up a trap for him to fall into. Senior, just say it. What do you want me to do? Mu Yu spread out his hands. Now that he was trapped with a bunch of souls and had no way to get out, he could only play along with them. Helian Kong came over and said in a small voice, "Do you know why the demi-humans keep trying to push the dividing line over? Why? It's because the Sea Demon King's royal city is on this island, and it's occupied by our human race," Helian Kong said with a smile. So what? The Sea Fiend King was locked up in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. If they want to save the Sea Demon King, shouldn't they try to find a way to enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda? Mu Yu knew that every Sea Demon King had his own royal city, but after several explorations, he wasn't interested in the Sea Demon King's royal city at all. Even though the Sea Demon King would use a special demonic technique to send his inner core, heart, and other strange things back to the protected area in order to preserve his power before he was sealed up, the Sea Demon King was trapped on this island, so he didn't have to do that. Let me tell you about the past. Back then, spiritual master Xian Jizi led us to fight the demi-humans to the death. He and the Sea Demon King fought until both sides suffered heavy losses. Even though Xian Jizi won in the end and used the Yao Ceiling Pagoda to subdue the Sea Demon King and eliminate all the demi-humans, we also suffered heavy losses. In order to prevent the Sea Demon King from escaping, spiritual master Xian Jizi sealed off the whole demonic island, and also trapped all the souls that died in the battle. Helian Kong recalled the battle back then, and his expression became solemn and respectful. In the end, he didn't choose to leave, but entered the Sea Demon King's royal city by himself, and never came out again. Apart from spiritual master Xian Jizi, no one else knows the way to enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, so you only need to enter the Sea Demon King's royal city, find the method left behind by spiritual master Xian Jizi, and negotiate with the demi-humans. The demi-humans will definitely agree to give up their territory and let you enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Helian Kong's expression was very solemn. No wonder the demi-humans always wanted to seize the Sea Demon King's underground palace. Otherwise, everyone would be dead, and they could get along with each other peacefully. Mu Yu frowned. "Senior, why are you helping me?" "Because you're a descendant of my Pill Cauldron sect." "Cut the crap. You've been guarding the royal city for so many years, fighting against the demi-humans, just to take back the Yao Ceiling Pagoda and prevent the Sea Demon King from escaping. Now, you want me to go to the royal city to find a way to open the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Do you want the Sea Demon King to come out?" Mu Yu didn't believe Helian Kong's words. Helian Kong smiled awkwardly, a hint of panic clearly flashing through his eyes. "Not at all, I just don't want our Pill Cauldron sect to lose a good seedling. Senior, let's not beat around the bush. What exactly do you want to do by encouraging me to go to the Sea Demon King's royal city?" Mu Yu asked directly. Helian Kong's expression struggled for a moment. In the end, he still sighed heavily and said, "I want to be free." "Free?" Mu Yu was surprised. "I've been trapped on this island in the form of a soul for 5,000 years, cut off from the rest of the world. I only have to face other souls all day long, and I still have to fight against the demi-humans. For 5,000 years, every day has been like this. It's really too torturous," Helian Kong said bitterly. "The long days were like a prison. They obtained eternal life in the form of a soul, but the price they had to pay in exchange was to be trapped on an isolated island, and no one cared about them. In order to prevent the Sea Demon King from coming into being, they guarded the demonic island for 5,000 years, but no one in the cultivation world remembered them. They could only fight incessantly, fight until they were numb. Muyu pursed his lips. He could understand this kind of pain. It was just like when the heavenly formation Tao was trapped like flowing water at his fingertip. It could live forever, but it lost its freedom and was forgotten by time in some corner. Our souls are unable to enter the Sea Demon King's royal city, so I hope you can find Daoist Xianjizi and obtain the method to open the demon-suppressing pagoda. Only then will you have a chance to enter the demon-suppressing pagoda. Think of a way to break the restrictions on the demonic island so that we can leave this place. Even if our souls are scattered, as long as we are no longer tortured by time, it's a kind of freedom. Helian Kong sighed. Do the others think so as well? Muyu asked. Helian Kong shook his head. The souls of us humans are divided into the persevering faction and the liberating faction. The persevering faction is led by Gui Yuzi and Bo Hong. They insist that we should continue to fight to protect the demonic island and take back the demon-suppressing pagoda. The liberating faction is led by me and Mu Mengfei. We feel that this kind of battle is meaningless, because no one knows what we have done. However, the persevering faction is the majority. They all believe that it is necessary for us to fight to protect the demon-suppressing pagoda. Muyu was silent. He wouldn't blame Helian Kong for wanting to shirk his responsibility. In reality, guarding the demon-suppressing pagoda wasn't Helian Kong and the others' responsibility at all, because they had already sacrificed their lives to defeat the demonic beasts when they were alive. After they died, they were forcefully imprisoned in this place with no way to escape. This was a rather cruel thing to do. They fought the demonic beasts here every day for the demon-suppressing pagoda, but the cultivators in the outside world were completely unaware of this. They also didn't receive any rewards for their effort. If it weren't for Mu Yu and the other people from the Gate of Hell and demonic beasts who were about to arrive, they probably wouldn't have discovered the abnormalities on this island. You guys can't enter the Sea Demon King's royal city, so how am I supposed to enter? Mu Yu asked. Actually, the key to the Sea Demon King's royal city is in my hands, or rather, it's in your hands right now, Helian Kong said with a smile. Mu Yu waved the soul tool in his hand and asked in surprise, You're talking about your thigh bone? He thought that Helian Kong's thigh bone was just an extremely powerful soul tool. He didn't expect that it was actually the key to opening the Sea Demon King's royal city. If Helian Kong's leg had been broken during the battle just now, then it would really be over for him. That's right. This is also the reason why the Ghost Realm child wants my soul tool. It's because he doesn't want you to enter the underground palace of the Sea Demon King. He wants to protect the demonic island, obtain my soul tool, and safeguard the key to the Sea Demon King's royal city for me. He doesn't want the demonic island to fall into the hands of the demonic beasts, Helian Kong said. However, Mu Yu felt that it was inconceivable. He had been in contact with the people from the Gate of Hell for more than a day or two. The people from the Gate of Hell would do anything to achieve their own goals. They would kill cultivators and collect all kinds of wandering souls and wild ghosts for their own use. How could they have the sense of responsibility to protect the demonic subduing pagoda? Considering that Gui Yeming and the others were about to come to the demonic island, Mu Yu felt that the people from the Gate of Hell were brewing some kind of conspiracy. Because of the existence of the demonic subduing pagoda, the people from the Gate of Hell couldn't do anything to the souls of the demonic island. Then why did they come here? Why is the key to the Sea Demon King's royal city in your soul tool? Mu Yu asked in confusion. The Sea Demon King's royal city belonged to the demonic beasts. The demonic beasts didn't get the key, but Helian Kong got the key instead. This was too strange. Helion Kong said, "Actually, the Sea Demon King's royal city has been modified by Taoist Master Xian Jizi a long time ago. Many of Taoist Master Xian Jizi's spells were also cast on the surroundings. The royal city is just an empty shell to the demonic beast. The real royal city has already become Taoist Master Xian Jizi's territory. He once sealed a powerful aura in my soul tool before entering the royal city. He told me that if the demonic beasts wanted to release the Sea Demon King in the future, they could take my soul tool and go to the royal city." Mu Yu asked in confusion, "Release the Sea Demon King? Why would Taoist Master Xian Jizi think that the demonic beasts want to release the Sea Demon King?" The demonic beasts didn't hesitate to pay any price in order to seal the Sea Demon King. So many heroic souls had died in battle for this. Even Helion Kong, a rank 8 alchemist with an incomparably noble status, couldn't escape this calamity. So many people had died in order to seal the Sea Demon King, but in the end, Taoist Master Xian Jizi wanted to release the Sea Demon King? Helion Kong shook his head. "This is also my suspicion. However, Taoist Master Xian Jizi told me that the conflict between the demonic beasts and humans isn't as simple as it seems on the surface. When the time is ripe, the Sea Demon King must be released." Chapter 624. The Demon King had to come out? Ever since the Great War between humans and demons several thousand years ago, only the Azure Dragon Demon King remained. The others were all sealed away. The White Ape Demon King was the first Demon King to be released. This matter was also related to Mu Yu. Even now, Mu Yu and the White Ape Demon King still looked down on each other. Mu Yu also knew where the Desert Hawk Demon King was sealed. However, the Desert Hawk Demon King was currently under the control of Xiang Nan, Mu Yu's senior brother. And now, Mu Yu had come to the Sea Demon King Yuzhang's sealed place, only to be told that the Demon King would come out? What had happened to this world? Could it be that the battle between humans and demons several thousand years ago had other secrets? In short, if you want to leave, you have to rely on the Yao Sealing Pagoda. Remove the barrier that surrounds the entire island. As for how to do that, you have to enter the Sea Demon King's underground palace. Helion Kong amiably patted Mu Yu's shoulder. Mu Yu felt a chill run down his spine. "All right. Then take me to the Sea Demon King's royal city to see the situation," Mu Yu said helplessly. Helion Kong looked at Gui Yezi and Bo Hong in the distance and whispered, "We can't do it now. Although the Sea Demon King's royal city has been taken over by our human souls, Gui Yezi and Bo Hong's people are guarding the entrance to the Sea Demon King's royal city. They won't allow you to do something like this. We have to think about this at length." Mu Yu felt a headache coming on. "Tell me you already have a plan." Helion Kong nodded confidently. "We just need to lure them away." "How?" "I'm still thinking." Mu Yu looked at the bones on the ground and laughed dryly. He felt a little sad to come to such a strange place and run into such an unreliable senior from the Pill Cauldron sect. "Are we going to fight again today?" "I'm ready." Little Shuai waved Helion Kong's leg bone around. He treated this battle between bone warriors as a game and was very excited. Fight? Why not? Mu Yu thought that since he had nothing to do now, he might as well take back a few meters of territory first. Helion Kong watched as Xiao Shuai played with his soul tool like a toy and felt a headache coming on. He could let Mu Yu use his soul tool as he pleased, but he definitely wouldn't let a small pet use it as a toy. Under Helion Kong's guidance, Mu Yu figured out how to use the soul tool. With the help of the soul tool, he could avoid the situation from just now and also know how to deal with unexpected situations. Under the control of his array, Little Shuai played with his Vajra skeleton warrior like a fiddle and defeated the demon clan 3 times in a row. "Come on! Don't be a coward!" Xiao Shuai stood on top of the skeletal warrior's head and shouted at the demons. Damn it! You traitorous bastard! You're obviously a demon beast, but you actually chose to help a human. Pluck its fur. The demons looked at the overbearing little handsome and were about to explode from anger. Bah! You are the demonic beast. Your whole family are demonic beast. I am a divine beast. Divine beast. Divine beast. Xiao Shuai scolded in exasperation. Mu Yu coughed twice and reminded in a low voice, Little Shuai, their true forms are indeed demonic beasts. Their whole family is also demonic beasts. You are not scolding them. As for whether Little Shuai was a divine beast, Mu Yu didn't know. In any case, the two words, divine beast, had always been given by Little Shuai himself. I don't care. You bunch of cowards, hurry up and come out. I want to teach you all a good lesson. Little Shuai threw his bones loudly. After winning 4 rounds in a row, the demon clan no longer accepted the challenge. This was because they realized that something was wrong. Mu Yu's skeletal warrior was actually able to defeat them. This was too strange. Thus, no matter how much Little Shuai scolded them, these demon clan members didn't rashly send out their skeletal warrior again. They had to carefully study the current situation. Little Shuai gestured with Helian Kong's leg bone in disappointment. All along the way, he was planning how to transform his skeletal warrior to teach the demon clan members a lesson tomorrow. At the same time, he was discussing with Mu Yu how to improve the spell formation so that the skeletal warrior would be more agile. The humans looked at Mu Yu as if they were welcoming a hero back in triumph. Mu Yu's performance today had raised their morale. Moreover, he had perfectly defeated the demon clan's skeletal warrior. Furthermore, he had used the limited amount of human bones to perfection. This was really rare. The human spirits all looked at Mu Yu in a new light. They looked at Mu Yu with burning passion. It was as if they were looking at Mu Yu as a star of tomorrow. Being stared at by a group of spirits that had lived for thousands of years, Mu Yu felt a little uneasy. He felt a little guilty. However, among so many human spirits, Mu Yu discovered that there was one spirit that was constantly staring at him with hostility. It was the spirit of the person from the gate of hell, Gui Yuzi. Mu Yu didn't know what Gui Yuzi was thinking, but it definitely couldn't be anything good. Looking at his sinister gaze, it was as if he was plotting something on Mu Yu. At night, the demon-subduing pagoda was still gently illuminating the entire demon island, repairing the bones that had been shattered during the day. Helian Kong brought Mu Yu to the front of the Sea Demon King's royal city. The Sea Demon King's royal city was at the edge of the towering coast. Below it was a cliff of the sea, standing proudly against the sea breeze. The Sea Demon King's royal city had a special charm. It wasn't as magnificent as the Sand Eagle Royal City that Mu Yu had seen before. The walls of the Sea Demon King's royal city were made of all kinds of tall corals and reef. All kinds of corals were wrapped in a layer of transparent seawater, swaying gently. This seawater was flowing. It was unknown where it came from, but it surged along the cliff and fell into the sea, forming a spectacular waterfall. The royal city within the walls was shrouded in a layer of white fog, and the situation inside couldn't be seen clearly. Helian Kong told Mu Yu that this fog was set up by enlightened Master Xianjizi. He had set up a powerful protective formation for the entire royal city, and it was very difficult to enter. The original Sea Demon King also had his own formation, but they were all modified by enlightened Master Xianjizi. Now, it's full of complicated formations. Be careful when you go in, Helian Kong said solemnly. Wait, you said it's full of formations inside? Mu Yu looked at Helian Kong with a strange expression. Helian Kong nodded. Enlightened Master Xianjizi said that if you want to obtain his inheritance, you have to pass his test, so he set up a lot of profound formations. He said that if you can't pass the test of these formations, then you have to become a member of the demon-subduing pagoda. This means that it's very likely that those formations will kill you. Helian Kong's expression was very serious. Formations, Mu Yu opened his mouth. He would cross that bridge when he got there. He was the best at formations and whatnot. Helian Kong said solemnly, I know you know some formations, but enlightened Master Xianjizi is different. He was once a senior of the Formation Talisman sect, and his formation skills have reached perfection. The formations he set up can't be underestimated. Formation Talisman sect? Mu Yu felt that this world was really too small. Wherever he went, he would run into familiar faces. He was now also the leader of the Formation Talisman sect. That's right. You should know about the Formation Talisman sect. It's a famous formation master among the 9 sects. Their formation skills are really unbelievably powerful. Thus, after you go in, you have to be vigilant. Many of their formation skills are very powerful, and if you're not careful, you'll become one of us. I'm very worried that you won't be able to deal with those formation skills, Helian Kong said solemnly. Mu Yu didn't know how to tactfully explain his formation skills to Helian Kong. Although he didn't bring the Formation Talisman stone with him, he was still very familiar with various formations. Enlightened Master Xianjizi was even more powerful than Helian Kong, who had once been in the tribulation passing stage. This meant that the Formation Talisman sect must have been a rather prosperous sect in the past. It was just a pity that the Formation Talisman sect later split up, causing the Formation Talisman sect to fall into decline. Okay, Senior, I'll definitely be careful. But before that, can we discuss how to enter the Sea Demon King's royal city? Mu Yu looked at the 20 or so souls floating at the gate of the Sea Demon King's royal city. These souls were responsible for guarding the Sea Demon King's royal city. A few of them were Helian Kong's subordinates, but most of them wouldn't listen to Helian Kong's orders. Helian Kong shrugged helplessly. I don't know. I can dispatch a few of my subordinates, but I can't do anything about the others. Once the Ghost Region child and the others find out, they have the ability to seal off the Sea Demon King's royal city. Do you souls ever feel sleepy? No. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. What about changing shift? Once every 3 months. Under what circumstances will they leave? They won't leave under any circumstances. This is a kind of responsibility. When speaking of responsibility, Helian Kong even puffed out his chest proudly. Guarding the Sea Demon King's royal city left behind by Taoist Master Xianjizi made these undying souls develop a sense of responsibility. Mu Yu simply wanted to vomit blood. If it was under such circumstances, how could he possibly sneak in without anyone noticing? Why are you guarding the Sea Demon King's royal city? It's not like anyone will barge in. This is Taoist Master Xianjizi's request. Moreover, many souls like to take turns to guard the Sea Demon King's royal city, because guarding the gate makes us souls feel very comfortable. A hint of yearning appeared on Helian Kong's face. Mu Yu slapped his forehead. Needless to say, he knew that Taoist Master Xianjizi must have used a special method at the gate of the Sea Demon King's royal city. Otherwise, who would want to guard the Sea Demon King's royal city? Oh no, they were ghosts. Mu Yu circled around the Sea Demon King's royal city once. A powerful array pattern covered the entire Sea Demon King's royal city. This array pattern was very strange, and it blocked off anyone from entering. Mu Yu had only seen this kind of powerful array pattern in the flowing water at the fingertips of the array Heavenly Tao. This Taoist Master Xianjizi's array skills probably wouldn't lose to the array Heavenly Tao. Although Mu Yu was the sect master of the Array Talisman sect, he had only received the recognition of the chaotic yin and yang. He still had to fumble around with his own understanding of the Array Tao, especially when Xianjizi's array skills contained his own special domain. Just this alone was something that Mu Yu couldn't compare to. In the array skills domain, it would probably be much more difficult for Mu Yu to break the array. He helplessly left the Sea Demon King's royal city and bade farewell to Helion Kong. He found a soulless place to think about his next plan. I remember that Deadwood Daddies, Xian Arrays, mentioned about the knowledge of the array skills domain. It might be useful. Little Handsome seemed to have thought of something. Chapter 6:25. Xian Formations was too thick, and Mu Yu hadn't finished reading it completely. The second half of Xian Formations was especially complicated, and some of the formations required at least the cultivation of the body integration stage to use, so Mu Yu hadn't read those formations. The ability of the domain was in a corner of Xian Formations that Mu Yu had neglected. The domain is a special kind of technique. Different people comprehend different domains. This kind of technique is closely related to one's body, and everyone can find the most suitable domain in their heart. By adding the domain to one's body, one can take the absolute initiative in a fight, and even suppress the opponent. The reason why the domain can only be comprehended by cultivators at the Great Ascension stage is because cultivators at the Great Ascension stage can already preliminarily come into contact with the laws of heaven. When a person comprehends a certain kind of technique to a high level, they can also use this technique to comprehend their own domain, such as my no life in despair. Unfortunately, my domain was restrained by a little brat, so I never showed it in front of him. He will definitely see it one day. That's right, I'm talking about you. Last time, you stole my book, and I didn't have time to finish it. You're asking for a beating, always using my stuttering as an excuse. If it weren't for the fact that you little brat had some conscience, I would have slapped you to death. Mu Yu read carefully, and in the end, he realized that the little brat seemed to be referring to himself. He awkwardly scratched the back of his head. Who would have thought that Deadwood Daddy would include his dissatisfaction in Xian Formations? The complaint was a total of 500 words, and all of it was scolding Mu Yu. Mu Yu could completely imagine Deadwood Daddy's expression and movements as he scolded him, and the way his beard would twitch. Really, Dad, can't you be responsible for your readers and write a good book? Mu Yu smiled. He missed those days very much. He really wanted to be scolded by Deadwood Daddy again, even if it was just listening to Deadwood Daddy's voice. After reading Deadwood Daddy's introduction to the field of matrices, Mu Yu was filled with admiration for Deadwood Daddy. When Mu Yu met Ku Mu's cultivation was at the body integration stage. However, his array techniques were so powerful that even Bai Jie didn't want to provoke him. Now Mu Yu finally understood why. Generally speaking, only cultivators at least at the Mahayana stage could comprehend domains, but Deadwood Daddy relied on his heaven-defying comprehension of arrays to create an array formation with a powerful domain. The domain that Ku Mu comprehended was called No Life in Despair. It was very difficult for anything to survive in his domain. All the runes were filled with a terrible poison. This poison was all-pervasive. Even if one's body was protected by spiritual energy, it would be completely eroded by the poison. The dead tree was infamous in the cultivation world. Before Mu Yu went to the Dead Tree Valley, all the self-cultivators knew that the Dead Tree Valley was a forbidden area. Even the 8 Gates warned their disciples not to go to the Dead Tree Valley. The reason was that the Dead Tree's array technique was too terrifying. However, the No Life in Despair finally met its nemesis. Mu Yu became the person who narrowly escaped death in the No Life in Despair. Deadwood Daddy loved and hated his special ability to control wood. Mu Yu was the only person who wasn't afraid of Deadwood Daddy's No Life in Despair. Ku Mu had never told Mu Yu about this before. Ku Mu rarely used this domain. After his cultivation dissipated, he couldn't use this domain anymore. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. The arrays that he had placed in the valley before were just child's play. If he really used no life in despair, in the valley, then the valley would really become a forbidden area. No wonder Deadwood Daddy didn't like me in the beginning, Mu Yu muttered. He had become the only nemesis of Deadwood Daddy's domain and was also Feng Haochen's disciple. It would be strange if Mu Yu liked Deadwood Daddy in the beginning. Deadwood Daddy recorded the process of how he comprehended the array technique domain. Mu Yu, do you want to give it a try? That way you can have 2 domains. Xiao Shuai said with great interest. What 2 domains? I don't even have a fart. Mu Yu said as he spread out his hands. How could something like a domain be so easy to comprehend? Deadwood Daddy was such a genius, but he also comprehended it when he was in the unification stage. Mu Yu's attainments in array techniques couldn't be compared to his. At most, Mu Yu's brain worked faster and could deduce complicated arrays. You already have a domain. Life and death is your domain in the blink of an eye. Xiao Shuai said casually. Mu Yu stopped, extremely surprised. Life and death is also a domain in the blink of an eye? Mu Yu never knew about this. Xiao Shuai nodded. Yes, the 5 Spirit Lords Yumeng's ability is a domain. Moreover, it is a very advanced domain. Ordinary Great Ascension stage cultivators can't comprehend this domain at all, nor can they compare to this domain. Then what is my master's domain? Mu Yu thought of her own master, the mysterious and unfathomable sword Shadow Qin Feng. He was able to suppress 5 Spirit Lord Yumeng. How could his domain be extraordinary? Xiao Shuai tilted his head and thought for a moment before saying, I forgot about this. It might be a powerful sword domain. I remember that it seems to have something to do with me. Why do you care about this? What does it have to do with you? Mu Yu was stunned. Xiao Shuai was the fellow that Feng Haochen used to block the spiritual aura eye. This fellow usually ate and drank, and when he encountered danger, he would occasionally use his little claws to summon a giant sword and wave it around. Xiao Shuai really couldn't see any relationship with Feng Haochen's powerful domain. Hurry up and see if you can comprehend your own array technique domain, according to Deadwood Daddy's pointers. From the perspective of a domain, you might be able to break the formation without going through the Sea Demon Imperial City's gate. Xiao Shuai said. Xiao Shuai was a very muddle-headed fellow. He came out of an egg and had some fragmented memories. Sometimes, he knew a lot of things, but the things he knew often made Mu Yu feel that it was inconceivable. Mu Yu forcibly suppressed the doubts in his heart and began to comprehend the understanding of array technique left behind by Deadwood Daddy. He realized that Xiao Shuai was right. If he could comprehend his own domain or understand the characteristics of the array technique domain, then he might be able to deal with the protective formation left behind by enlightened Master Xian Jizi. According to Deadwood Daddy's introduction of the array technique domain, Mu Yu couldn't comprehend the Heavenly Tao's rules. His cultivation was far from enough. The only way was to use the second method, which was to start with the spells that he was best at. Mu Yu was undoubtedly the best at swordsmanship and array technique, but no matter what, he hadn't learned them to the highest level. Although his strength had increased after learning the sword array, he didn't dare say that his sword array had reached the same level as his master. Thinking of this, he became a little discouraged. There was no way he could comprehend a domain like this. Xiao Shuai turned a page and continued to read. A domain isn't invincible. There will always be flaws. If you can't comprehend a domain and fall into someone else's domain, then you can use my method to break a domain. Domains also have mutual restraints. The restraints are reflected in the nature of the domain. You must first understand what a domain is used for. For example, if you fall into my domain, you will definitely be poisoned to death. My domain relies on the array pattern. If you want to break my domain, you must understand the rhythm of the array pattern. No spell is perfect. It must have a flaw. Once this flaw is found, even if your cultivation is only at the qi refining stage, you can break it. Mu Yu carefully pondered the words that Deadwood Daddy had left for him. Since enlightened Master Xianjizi was also an array master, there must be array pattern in his domain. As long as he could find the weakness of this array pattern, then he would be able to move freely in his domain. The rhythm of the array pattern? Mu Yu fell into deep thought. His most powerful point was his extraordinary calculation ability. Back then, he was able to find the 8 steps to heaven in the chaotic array hall's stairway to heaven. This was enough to show that he was extraordinary. Enlightened Master Xianjizi's array technique domain was mixed with rhythmic array pattern. First of all, as long as he knew the true function of this array technique domain, then he could deduce the rhythm of the array pattern. Then he would know how to take advantage of the situation. Mu Yu nodded thoughtfully. Enlightened Master Xianjizi's Yao Ceiling Pagoda could repair all damaged bones. This meant that his domain had the ability to recover. However, it was clear that this domain wasn't as simple as it looked. There had to be something special about it. He looked at the Yao Ceiling Pagoda in the distance, which was emitting a green light, and fell into deep thought. A night passed, and Mu Yu didn't figure out anything. However, he at least understood the mystical array technique domain. If Mu Yu could also control this domain ability, then even if he fought with someone more powerful, Mu Yu wouldn't be at a disadvantage. The day passed, and dawn arrived once again. This meant that today was going to be another great battle between bone warriors. Xiao Shui was already there, ready to fight. However, just as Mu Yu was about to go find the demons to fight, a strange fluctuation came from the demon island. This fluctuation was very strange. It was like some kind of warning, as if it alarmed every soul and the only living person on the island. Senior, what's going on with this fluctuation? Mu Yu found Helian Kong and asked in puzzlement. Helian Kong's face revealed an astonished expression. It's the same situation as when you came to the demon island last time. This fluctuation is a warning spell set up by the Sea Demon King. It's specifically targeted at humans. Once a human comes to the demon island, it will be triggered. Now, it means that more people have come to the demon island. Either we haven't seen a living person for thousands of years, or there are several of them coming, and they're all coming from our shores. It's really strange. Let's go. Let's go take a look. More people have come to the demon island? Mu Yu's expression changed slightly. Since this fluctuation was specifically targeted at humans, it definitely wouldn't be triggered if the demons themselves came to the island. Then, without thinking, it was obvious who had come to the demon island this time. Gui Yezi's figure floated over. He glanced coldly at Mu Yu, and the corners of his mouth curved into a strange smile. Then, he turned into a stream of light and rushed toward the source of the fluctuation. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.